I met a Gypsy.
Righto, Josh Sheehan, the great man himself.
Should have done
It's all right, mate.
something to clear my nose.
This show's extremely informal, so this is completely fine. It's a change of seasons, mate. Gets everyone.
Oh, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. I thought it might have been something in the diet or something, but
Nah, I reckon everyone's like, I've had it, my housemates had it. I reckon there's just some shit floating in the ether. It's probably
Yeah.
COVID too.
yeah. Yeah, well, yeah.
You have been zipping around the country, evading everything.
Yeah, avoiding checking into different locations. I did
Allegedly.
have a chuckle there. I've got Service Victoria, Service New South Wales, Brisbane, Queensland. But yeah,
Well,
I've been good, thankfully.
yeah. Look at you, mate. You're in good nick. Solid as an ox, as
Yeah.
always.
Bit of footy training has helped lately, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's been
Footy?
good.
What,
Yeah,
like
well-
rugby league or
No,
AFL?
AFL.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Big on the West Coast?
Yeah, a lot bigger. I grew up as a kid out of school. Everyone sort of played football. All the girls had netball, and you kind of
Yeah.
same location each weekend. It was just a common thing to do when we were young. And since motocross took over, it kind of, I played for a few years, and then just we got knocked out one year in the finals, and I thought, stuff it, I'll
Yeah.
get stuck into motocross and have a crack at that. And then last year, with nothing happening, I went and watched the local team. Got motivated all for
That's sick.
from women, the under 18s up to the league team, all won, and I was just so pumped and motivated and thought, stuff it, I'll get back into it.
That's
It was-
awesome,
It was
mate.
the hardest 4 weeks I've ever had, I reckon.
So you did like a 4-week pre-season with like the team and
no,
stuff? Or
no preseason. So
you
it
just
was-
went straight in?
Yeah, it was just mid-season. I
That's
had
awesome.
been meaning to get back into it for a while, and then just wasn't until I went and watched them that I thought, training Tuesday, I think, and yeah, that stretched out half my muscles, and yeah, it was. I just didn't recover until about a month after the last game. So
Yeah.
this year, though, I did do the preseason, and it's been good. So
Yeah, right.
slowly build the body back up. I
Yeah.
still feel like 10 years out of the game is a little hard on the body, but it's getting there, and being older.
Oh, yeah. Like I was saying last night, I do jiu-jitsu flat out, and like, fuck, my body, dude. Like, I want to, all the boys that I train with, it's like, is it like this for you? Like, are you this sore? Because I'm just, every day I wake up, I'm just like, fuck, like all the joints and knees and back. And then no matter how much you do it, it just never seems to get easier. And then, you get older and then you have a crash on the bike. And I'm just like, fuck
Gets
this.
harder.
I'm frail, dude. I'm frail and I'm 33.
Yeah, I think it must be the age, but then I do remember racing motocross just out, 17, 18,
Yeah,
19,
yeah.
and having a big race and being sore for a week after. So I guess depending on what we're conditioned to, how fit we are for whatever sport we're doing. So
And it's just like hard. Motocross is hard.
It
Football
is
is hard. Jiu-jitsu is hard. They're just hard things. And I
Yeah.
think you just got to come to grips with it, eh?
yeah, and when you're trying to bounce between a couple of them, then it's hard. The body's trying to change, adapt to each one. It's hard, but I guess it's good.
That's cool though. Like I know for me, I got a real sense of like when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I didn't even know there really was competitions that adults did. Like I knew that my friends' kids competed,
Yeah,
but I didn't really think it was something that adults even did. So like I started, had no idea that I'd be competing at any point. And then a few months in, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. And all the other boys are going, and you got like the team camaraderie and shit like that. Even though it's like a individual sport, it's still, you go there with the whole team. Everyone's got the shirts. It's sort of like a team kind of thing.
yeah.
So it's
yeah.
pretty cool, eh? Like, and when I grew up playing footy as well, and when there's something about that camaraderie and the coming together with a group of people to do the same, walk towards the same goal. There's definitely some fulfillment in there, eh?
It is, and being in like motocross does involve a team of people, but to get back into a team like football, there's 18 of you on the field, and for all of you you have to work together, you have to help each other out, and it's pretty cool. It's fulfilling, sort of helping others. You need to work together to be able to win, to progress. So that's cool. It's good for your communication skills. I had to remember a few names when I got back into it, and yeah, it's a bit of a test there, but no, it's awesome. Just a good change. Keep yourself motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good, I find for me too, I don't know whether it'd be the same in football, but for me, man, like I go to jiu-jitsu just to get humbled. Like
Yeah.
just daily, humblings, and it's like there's always, I'm good at it, but there's people at it that are better.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go with people that you're better than, and sometimes you roll with the people that are better than you. And when that happens, you get fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, there is something I find if I don't want to go to training, it's usually a part of my ego that doesn't want to deal with that defeat style thing, Are they tripping out, are they?
No, I'm just
getting comfy.
turn the volume down a bit.
Oh, I think I can do that here. Is that better?
Down a bit.
Down a bit.
Yeah, I can still hear you. Down a bit.
Down a bit. Is that all good?
Pretty good. Actually, go a bit lower.
Yo.
It's still the same, I think.
Is it? Oh, maybe I'm changing.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Yep.
I was changing mine, not yours.
You start yelling.
Is it better? Hey, can you hear me, mate? But yeah, good. I find that the days I don't want to do it are the days where that voice in my head just doesn't want to get beat. I just want to stay the man because I feel like I'm the man in here, and I'm doing my work, and I run my shit, and I got this, and I'm doing all this stuff, and like I'm the fucking G. And then I got to go into that room and just like fully, like you have to willingly give that up.
Yeah.
Every time, and I think it's healthy.
Yeah. Actually, I think you might have turned down the return on my mic. Can you hear me the same?
Yeah.
That's
mine.
Yeah.
How's that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear myself too well through. Yeah, that's better.
Oh, okay. What about, is mine all right?
Yeah, I think you're just louder.
Oh, really? Probably.
We'll be fine.
Is it all right? We can
it's
keep
fine.
fucking with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's like that part of me that's got to just give that shit up, and just you got to take your beatings, and then you always feel better for it.
Yeah, I find a lot of exercise like that as well. And you get to the end of the day and you think, I don't really feel like doing anything, but you almost feel worse for not doing it than if you actually, pull your finger out and do something. It might be hard work, but you might feel physically exhausted, but you feel better for it after. It's sometimes you get more sore from not doing anything as well. So
yeah, what my buddy Jack Freestone says, movement is medicine.
Definitely, yeah.
Even when you're like, I feel like that with like hangovers, if you're really sore and tight, you want to get moving, get warm.
Yeah, definitely. Being on a plane is one of the worst things when you...
Which you've been on a couple.
Yeah, and especially if you're like early days, I'd be trying to do as much training before taking off, just so I was as fresh as possible, and then get on the plane. And my first X Fighters actually got over to Rome, and when I got off the plane, after struggling to put my foot back on because my feet were swollen, I looked down and my ankles were bruised. So I had that much lactic acid, and
wow.
I just worked hard. Back then I didn't know enough about training. I would just go hard, thinking that's what I need to do. And then it's like all these sore muscles, all the lactic acid, it's like it all just goes down to your ankles. And I was sore for a day when I got there.
Have you ever worn the compression socks on planes?
Yeah,
since then?
Swear by them.
Yeah, it's so much better, eh?
Yeah, they help a lot, gee. And my approach is a bit different now, especially with training in general, but train a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
You obviously have to as you get older, but now getting on a flight, it's like I try and be as good a condition as I can be getting onto the flight, because the flight itself is terrible. Might be good for sleeping on a plane. It's a bit like altitude training. Your body adapts while you're trying to sleep, so it's probably why it's harder a lot of the time to sleep on a plane, but it's good for you, and you kind of need to be healthy on the plane and hydrated. So
yeah, well, that's like I've found, like I was saying last night, I've only got one kidney, so I've got to be pretty on point with hydration. And I've found too, like I actually can't push through being dehydrated anymore.
Yeah, like
I've found if I train slightly dehydrated, fucks me up bad. I've done I've been doing a lot of saunas recently.
Yep.
And I'm like really got to watch my water intake all day, because like if you go in a sauna and you're not fully hydrated, dude, you just end up being a prune, eh? Like, and then you just can't get that water back. Like you got to drink like 4 liters of water, and then I wake up with a headache. But man, there's like shit now I just literally won't do if I'm not at like a certain level of hydration.
Yeah, I remember someone saying like, staying hydrated is way better than getting hydrated. Like training, like staying fit is way easier than getting fit. So, yeah, try and keep it up, and or it takes way longer than what we think.
Yeah.
Like all week, days to fully hydrate ourselves. So we really have to keep it up.
Well, I think
stay
it's
on
like
it.
4 days
Yeah, okay.
that it takes to properly go from being like, I guess, clinically dehydrated to actually hydrated. That's insane, eh?
Yeah, it's you don't realise actually some days when you don't feel too bad, you think you've done all right, and then you might get cramps for a day or two. You sort of realise then that maybe I was a bit more dehydrated than I thought.
I had this app on my phone, and when the new iPhone, the new iPhone software came up, you could put like these little widgets on your phone. And I started having I got like this hydration app, but it just didn't last long enough. I couldn't stick to it. I should bring that up to the front again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at home I tend to. We're lucky on the farm. We've got bore water, but it's beneath. It's like 60 meters below white sand, and it's pure water.
Oh,
it's like almost a bit too clean. So
you have to add minerals and stuff.
Yeah, I chuck some salt, some Himalayan, some magnesium chloride, and a bit of bicarb to up the pH a little bit. But
yeah, right.
It's just like I've got the right combo now. It's just awesome. I love it. So,
I'm keen to try some of that water. Actually,
yeah,
we'll be there.
Yeah, you'll be. Yeah.
So I want to tell. We spoke about it last night.
Yep,
So we're gonna go through it again. We've got a pretty funny story of the first time we ever met. So I'll let you take it away. It's a pretty good. It's a pretty good first impression.
Yeah, pretty funny. So a turning point in my career, very important. But so my good mate Phil Floppy Licklet, he helped me out years ago. Bit of a gift of the gab, and somehow he managed to chat with Yariv, the head of Honda race team, and convinced him to help me out by lending me a bike for a competition. I think that was the first one that he prepped for me. So basically,
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. So basically, I flew over to. Flew over. So there was a small Supercross race. Do you know the town?
It was, shit.
Just out of Melbourne.
Yeah, it was just out of Melbourne. It was one of the.
McNeil remembers because he was the other rider, racing and doing the freestyle.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But basically, I'd rocked up, felt so privileged. Honda had just done up this brand new 2018 450.
No, 2008 it would have been.
8. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was 8. It was the last of the Carby, but it was a ripper. I loved it. It was just. But brand new, so brand new gear, brand new boots, bike. I was just rolling off a truck ramp just to feel it. It's nice and firm, and they did such a good job. And then the ramp on the track was just placed in front of the finishing line jump, and I was too used to a bigger landing, and I was worried about over jumping. The 450s have got plenty in second, and I knew they had plenty in first, and so I thought maybe I'll just hit in first. I know I won't over jump then. And there's a lot of conversation that you're telling me that I'd forgotten about, but I decided I'll just hit in first, and I'd obviously come into the ramp and just chop the throttle at the top of the ramp and ran out. And so basically landed on top of the landings, nose first, broke both my wrists on impact. Left wrist already had a plate in it because I'd broken it a few years earlier, but I just remember left wrist was sore. I didn't know how bad it was, but the right wrist just went big old bend in the main distal.
Oh, radius.
Distal radius.
Yeah.
Oh, radius is a bone. Distal is the knot at the end. Yeah, so both of them were the same. Like I was lucky that it was there, but horrible day, embarrassing. My chance to impress Yuri, impress Honda. Yeah, and turns out you're the guy that was holding my wrists while someone else was putting a green stick in the green whistle in my mouth. And then sucking on that, and then someone having to scratch my back because the morphine was making me itchy, and it was horrible. But after all that, funny to meet you there. But after all that, so grateful for that. Yariv, a lot of people might have a bad thing to say about him, but his heart's good, and
he changed your career. He
did. He helped me. He sent that bike over to me after, and sort of kept helping me out, helped me get to some like the Super X Supercross later in the year, and I think that was late 08. But it just it helped getting me off the ground. It gave me some opportunities, some of those big comps in front of the right people, and met some more people, which then just kept growing and growing. And and then a couple of years later I'm pinching myself. It's just seems surreal. You know, it was a dream as a kid, and you know, help with my mate Phil and your Reeves helped with the bike, and just meeting more people. It was just changed my world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's funny that that's pretty much the place you go to start an interview with you, because that's sort of where your career really started. But I just remember that we had a conversation and you're like, oh, what gear do you reckon? You know, and I just said, look, man, I don't want any part of that conversation. Like, I'm not good enough, you know, like I'd never tell somebody something about a jump I wouldn't hit. And
I can't remember asking that question exactly, but yeah, I remember I was thinking, do I hit it second or do I drop it back to first so I don't overjump? But that was my thought. I didn't want to overjump. So.
Yeah. I remember the combo, and I just was like, man, I can't. I've never hit a ramp. I'm just not. I'm just not saying nothing because I don't want you to crash. But yeah. So then sitting there holding the old forearms, I felt terrible for you because like just before it, I think I was helping with like the gear or the bike or like getting it because I was working for Urive at the time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, this is Josh Sheehan, and I was like, hey mate, how are you? And Konski was pumped, you were pumped, and then fucking 2 seconds later, I was like, oh, this poor motherfucker, that's so terrible.
It's horrible. But yeah, it's funny. Just so grateful for the people that were involved to help me to just to have someone to have any trust in me after that. And just the fact that he sent the bike to me and helped me keep going, and a few years later, I was able to get somewhere, which was handy.
It's crazy when you look back at it. Now we've got all of hindsight, but in that moment, you would have just been like, I have fucking shit the bed here, big time.
I'm surprised he sent the bike over. To be honest, it was I wouldn't have expected anyone to help me out after that. I was so lucky when he sent the bike over. I just so probably haven't said thanks to you enough, but cheers, mate.
That's so good. So you come from farm boy life, apple farm in WA, and how did your career go? Like you got kind of, I think freestyle's interesting because of the timelines. Like you've got this period where it was massive and dudes were just making like crazy money and there was huge deals around and it was like just fresh on the scene. And then there was like this next era of guys where it was like an insane amount of progression. Guys were still making good money, but it wasn't like that kind of money, but those guys weren't doing this kind of trick. So there's like this weird kind of timeline of how that sport evolved. And you end up smack bam in the middle of like this insane progression type of, I guess, that period of freestyle. But so like, where did the background even come from for you to then like get into freestyle? And then what, I guess, you know, we'll get into what led to the progression, because you're one of the most progressive dudes in the sport, really.
I never saw myself as that, but maybe that's why.
On paper.
Yeah, I think I always looked up to other people and got my inspiration from other people. Like as a young kid, I'd see Travis Pastrana, Nitrous, Krusty Demons back in the day, and Maddo and Bilko, the local Aussies, and although Bilko is only a year or two older, but seemed about 5 years younger.
Mentally. Still does.
But I remember, I was just on the farm, just loved bikes, real rev head, my brother and I, anything cars, bikes, whatever. And remember watching Krusty Demons back in the day and watching them start flipping. I do remember Mum poking her head into the land room and watching them back flipping, and she's like, "You're never doing that.
You're not allowed to do that." No, I'm gonna do 3.
Yeah, and I remember saying, never wouldn't mind backflipping one day, but and I remember in 2006 being blown away by Travis double flipping. I remember at that point I hadn't even backflipped. I thought, I wouldn't mind backflipping, but I'd never do 2. And then,
that is so gnarly.
06, I think end of 06 was when good mate Ash Rogers and I both wanted to, but very similar race, same age as well, and I think I must have just met him. He didn't live too far away, but met him through racing, and we took a mountain bike out to a ramp and BMX bike out to a dam and just flipped a couple in the water just to
Get
feel
the
it
feeling.
out. Yeah, and then we went back to my family farm and we had a sand freestyle landing.
Yeah.
And we just put a bit of a conveyor belt, made a bit of a steep takeoff on one end of it, and just flipped our mini bikes over this sand landing. So it's a fair bit of give, a couple of crashes, wipeouts, but we're all good, and it was awesome. But as soon as I did that, I thought, I'm flipping a big bike. I kind of had the mechanics of it in my head, and I knew what needed to be done. And we just further out the back of the farm, next door is a sand quarry basically, and we just found a sort of bit of a hill where they'd been taking sand from, so it was as vertical as sand will get, and maybe 3-4 meters high, and then just a little bit of a dip. So we had a Bobcat at the time hired, and so I drove that over and just made a little bit of a landing on one side, and we just plonked I can't remember, just someone's home built ramp, not a full size FMX ramp, but plonked it on an angle, into this slope, just so enough to get up on the hill. And another guy was with us that we didn't think was going to flip. He had a crack and bailed out, and then I was like, yep, time to go. And I kind of knew in my head what I need to do, and knew I had to just lean off the back to get the bike spinning, and it worked out. I think I wheelied down the landing and kind of fell off on the first one, but near on landed the first one, and we were so pumped. We just sort of kept flipping over at the sand bit. I think Dad came over at one point to have a look and was just like, that's pretty awesome. But we just wanted to do that stuff because it was just awesome, bit of a thrill. We loved it. Had no thoughts of, actually I don't even know if, I guess we were watching Krusty's. We kind of knew that there could be a career, but didn't think of it as a career path. And just that sort of started it. And then not long after that, my mate Phil, have you heard of Narrogin Revheads?
Yes.
They had some freestyle.
Is that a festival? Like a
bit of a festival, Bogan Festival.
Yeah,
Rednecks.
yeah.
So when we were younger, it was huge.
It's like a WA Summer Nats type thing, isn't it? Yeah.
3 days of just burnouts and
fuck yeah.
burnouts and cars, and so quite a few show cars, and we used to go to, my brother and I used to go down and every now and then, most years, and you'd end up just sort of getting on the beers and just you'd feel like absolute crap. You wouldn't shower for a few days and be camping, and things would just get messy everywhere. It was just dirty, but a fun weekend away.
Yeah.
I mean, for everyone that loves cars and skids, it's what more
heaven. Yeah.
But they I think there was a bit of a flat pad there. I think early 07 actually, they ran a state champ freestyle motocross competition there, and and a mate had told me about it. I thought, I'll just jump on, enter, and see how we go. And at that time, I think I was the first person flipping 75 foot in WA, so I was the only guy at that comp backflipping. But I learned to double grab on the day, and had a few limited tricks, a fairly big whip, and was just like loving it. But did a big whip and then looked back at the judges and didn't get back in time and wiped out and hurt my wrist, and
oh no,
couldn't do much. And turned out a couple of days later I still couldn't do anything, so I got it scanned and it was broken. So that was the wrist that didn't fully bend when you were holding my wrist.
Right.
It was already supported by titanium. But it kind of lit a fire in me that weekend. And at the end of the year, they announced at the Revheads event in November that they were going to do a freestyle competition there as well. And that's when Sinks and Shuey came back over. I forget if Clint Moore came down that year or not, but maybe the next year. But I had a bit of inspiration, a bit of drive.
That's
wanted to learn a few more tricks, and I think by that point I'd met Billy Happy. He was the guy, earlier on. He was the guy in WA. He wasn't backflipping yet, but he had all the tricks, and he'd been doing it for years. And him and some mates had created a foam pit in Perth, just south of Perth. And
really?
Yeah, so I befriended him and let me use his pit a few times and learned a few bigger tricks. Like I was watching Bilko do ruler flips, and so then I was trying some ruler flips.
Wow, that's a quick progression.
It was, and so I came back at end of 07. Must have been when I'd come back and did my first ruler flip at didn't know many tricks. Had couple of hill cliggers, basic tricks, and then a ruler flip, and it just worked out well. I was watching Bilko pushing off with 1 foot like he did, and then my first one I did, I kind of get the timing right, so I'm just hanging off the back, and then as soon as the wheel flicks off the ramp, my feet just drop off
back, yeah,
and so then feet came down together, and it just worked out beautiful. So kept doing them, and got third that weekend. So
the unicorn was born.
Yeah, it wasn't known as unicorn back then, but
the unicorn was alive and well. It was just dormant, waiting to be discovered.
Funny story about the unicorn, actually. Do you know how that started?
No, I actually don't. But I've heard you being referred to as a unicorn forever.
Yeah. So on Nitro, I guess I've always been pretty quiet about like my relationships and stuff like that. I'm not one to don't go out and find girls to bring back, and just a bit quiet. I guess I don't know, maybe late bloomer, but I'm not. A lot of the freestyle guys at the time were, or say, some people would go out and try and get a girl to bring back, and a mate, the athlete manager at the time, was like, "Why don't we ever see you bring any girls back? You're sneaking around. You're like a unicorn. No one ever sees you." And so,
really?
So that was just a joke. And then a few people got referred to as a unicorn after that because we did special things. But yeah, so the joke started by someone asking me why I didn't see me bring girls back. But yeah, now it's kind of hung on because
you just do the craziest shit ever.
Yeah, did a triple flip and a couple of cool things. So yeah, look, if people are happy to call me that, I'm happy for it. Don't continue to call me a unicorn as a nickname. It's just
yeah.
Sheehan will do.
Yeah. So it was in the end like a pretty quick progression for you. Like, what level did you race motocross at? Like, how good were you at racing, do you think?
Sicko. No.
Like, objectively, if you had to, just to find where your skills kind of landed.
In WA, I'd a couple of years of racing, I'd got up to A grade in WA. Might have got sort of top 10, 15 in some races in A grade, but got to the point where it was like, had to do a lot of riding. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of training, and I just kind of had to rely more on fitness and strength to wrestle through my bad skills, basically. So I didn't have a real, upbringing racing motocross as a kid. I just started when I had my road bike license. Car license, and then friends and I would drive to the motocross races, and before that it was just trail riding on the farm. So just progressed because I loved it, I think.
Yeah. Anyone that can throw a whip though is a dude that's got like some legitimate bike skills. Yeah. So like a lot of freestyle riders that don't have like that skill background. That's why you don't see every freestyler throwing whips or like legit whips either.
Yeah, I did. I think early days when we first built a couple of tabletops on the farm, I don't know, I wanted to whip. It just kind of appealed to me. Whips turned down and just read motocross books with instructions or ideas or how to do different whips, and I don't know, just always loved them. Still do. They're never the same.
Yeah,
you do so many different types of them, and to see people like Tyler Berriman, Axel, guys, hucking throwing their bike in all different directions now. It's epic.
It's one of those things too, like, no worries. It's crazy with guys like Berriman and Axel because you can watch their YouTube edits and, you see the pictures and stuff like that, right? It's just, none of it does it justice. Like actually seeing them do that shit in person. Like there's just something just so like, is it still super loud?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's just something about even in person that just makes it more impressive. Like when you're being under a quarter pipe or seeing like the way, like Tyler especially, when he's riding up to a ramp, he pretty much doesn't accelerate at all. Like he rides up to the ramp as like slow as the bike will go in second gear, and then like as soon as his front tire hits the ramp, he just goes bop, like everything this fucking thing's got. And that's the shit that just trips you out, because there's a lot of weird physics at play where you're just like, nah man, like the confidence in I guess, I mean, you'd probably be able to explain it more than me, but just the concept of what you're about to do, like they've just got it so dialed, and it's like they can just buy into a concept. Like you don't accelerate at all until your front wheel, and then you will go 75 feet and you will be upside down.
Yeah, beauty of 450s, the power of these bikes lately is awesome. Where you can, I did 1 year on a 254 stroke, worst year I had. Just
Yeah,
I
not
was
enough,
so used to having some power, but yeah, to the 450, there's just so much grunt where you could be jumping 120, 130 feet in second gear.
Really?
So to hit hit 75 foot, it's like right in the sort of power range, and you can just be putting and
It's pretty wild,
it's
eh?
just, yeah, it's awesome. It's a good feeling, especially when your bike's running crisp, like older bikes are running ignition and a pipe basically, and it just opens them right up, and you just get a snappy, responsive throttle, and it's good fun.
You're a man that loves a skid, eh?
Yeah.
I just hear it in you. Oh.
Yeah. All our mates love a good skid.
Well, that's kind of the coolest part about growing up on a farm, right? You get to shoot guns and you get to drive cars, and you get to do all that shit from when you're 4.
Yeah. Yep. The first bike I rode was a postie bike. It had a low seat. It was almost like a scooter. So
Sick.
You could touch the ground, or I could get into it, onto it. I remember my brother, he was good instigator of these things, but he'd find a cheap rally car, someone selling it for $50 or something, and we just thrash these cars around the farm. Just well before, say, any regular person can get the chance to drive a car, and we're putting cushions on the seat so we can see over the steering wheel, and overshooting corners, taking out fruit trees, and then standing up the fruit trees and propping them up so Dad didn't know. But it helped us a lot. We learnt so much control, and had so much fun driving around the farm. So
man,
epic lifestyle.
Yeah, dude, we had this one day. We had this old 60 series Land Cruiser, and it was like the 4-speed transmission, and Dad was the president of the football club. So then we never grew up on a farm, like we always lived in a house, but we always had farms, like family and friends and stuff like that. So we pretty much got that lifestyle. And so there was one day where it was just pissing down rain. There was like this abandoned field, and they just freshly slashed it, and the grass was only kind of like shin high, and pissing down rain. And Dad's like, "Fuck, just go drive the cruiser in the paddock." So we got these witches hats, and me and my brother made this track, and I was probably 11 and my brother was 9. Man, we fucking spent all day rallying this thing around.
Drifting the 60 series.
Oh, dude, just like 4th gear, 2nd gear, just every corner, just like that. And those days, man, like when you're a kid, there's something about being allowed to drive a boat or a car or a bike or something as a kid that is only reserved for adults.
Yeah.
But you get to do it. It's like the sickest shit ever.
Yeah, so fun. And it's something, I don't know, like it's, I guess, more of a boy thing, but we just loved any kind of machine, tractor, just anything that we could drive and operate. It was so fun. But to be able to just go and thrash stuff and just kill. I mean, Dad was a bit upset with some bikes that we might have destroyed or damaged over the years, but yeah, like to get a car and just not have to care about it, thrash it, crash it, and wreck it. And if it's too far gone, you go buy another one.
And then put it in a landing ramp.
Yeah. Good times, man.
Yeah, and so you've never moved away from the farm though, right? Like, or you wouldn't live with your parents still, I'm sure, or like what's the deal there? But you've still stayed like on the farm, right?
Yeah. So we were, like, when I was working, we were living during the week away from home, but I lived with my parents for, it's quite, wasn't that long ago. I got into my 30s, I think.
Oh, sick.
My brother had moved into my grandfather's house, which is, 300 meters away, just across the farm. And
I figured that's how the setup would be. There'd be like the farm and then like all this shit around the farm, like all these places on the farm.
Yeah, and then like Dad's brother, he lives on the other side, over the road on the same farm. And my brother had moved into my grandfather's house some years before, and I remember saying, "Oh, I'd love to move over there." And I think he had a bed and everything, a couple of rooms ready for me to go over. But I just got into all this travel, and it was just so convenient. The house was right next to the shed, and just with all the riding and training and stuff I was doing, and could have my meals cooked and sometimes get my clothes washed, and but it was just so convenient, and then it just didn't happen. So I was kind of annoyed that I didn't, because then I missed the opportunity when in 15 my brother died, and so I moved in after that, and then I was like, kind of missed out on some good times, I think.
Instead of moving in before.
Because like we were close, but his work, and we when we were younger we rode together all the time, and like he got into pig hunting. When I sort of moved away from footy into motocross, he was basically playing footy and pig hunting. That was his hobbies, fishing, whatever. And then my motocross kind of led into the freestyle and got me traveling. But, it always helped me as a kid, and we had a lot of good times. But it's like I kind of feel like I missed out on some more good times by not moving in with him a bit earlier. Not moving in while he was still there.
It's hard. It's hard, but it's easy to look back and say.
That's it.
Probably end up.
It's 2020.
You probably end up fucking carrying on, and in punch ups and fucking wrestling and carrying on.
I was lucky though. He wasn't like that.
Was he older?
Yeah, he was older. Yeah. He could fight. He was stronger, taller, faster.
Yeah.
So, but he was good. I think I was like his little wingman when I was younger, because he was always a bit smarter, and kind of my mum's side of the family is a bit inventive, creative, and he kind of had that. So he was always learning things and then pulling motors apart. And because I was a few years behind, he was showing me. And then I'd be helping him when he had his car, helping him change gearboxes and do stuff like that. And so it was good. He was a good teacher, certainly good older brother to have.
Yeah, man. There's something cool too when like you and your brother are into the same stuff.
Yeah,
like I've seen a bunch of my friends, and they've got siblings that they're just like they don't really share a lot of interests. They're just sort of like weird friends that are related. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not like mates that hang out. Whereas it's sort of the same with me and my brother Matty. Like I've always been into the same shit. I think that's one of the best things about motorsports in general too, like when you're a kid and you're racing and stuff like that, and like a lot of times families race, you're a little race team, and you just kind of travel around, and you end up being like your own little deal.
It was pretty cool. Dad he didn't want to give us too much, or he wanted us to understand working and earning and that kind of stuff. So because they were never into motocross racing or anything, but too busy with the farm. So he gave us the opportunity to work on the farm and earn the money to buy my bike. So that was at the time it didn't really seem like it, but that was a very important gift to me. It was just the lesson on earning and how business work. And I was at the time it was a nursery. Say that you lay a tree down in the ground, cover it with sawdust, it sprouts new trees, and then you cut them off and you use that as a rootstock. So then you'll cut the tree off and you'll graft a certain apple tree on it. So you've got a different type of root to a different fruit tree. And anyway, he kind of just gave me the opportunity, and then I got a friend over to help me, so I paid him not as much as I was getting. So then, just the lessons around running a business.
Awesome.
And
what age were you?
I was still in school, so 14, 15. I think it was 14, because I remember being about year 9 when I bought my brother's bike off him.
Yeah.
And that's what paid for it. So
that's so sick.
Actually, no. 14, 15, around about then.
Yeah. And so your dad had like the full farm with the big trees, and then you were in charge of propagating the new little trees.
Not even that, not that advanced. So he was running the orchard, but the odd times that he needed to plant a new variety, a new crop of apples or whatever, he would run this system. But he just basically like paid me more than I didn't deserve that amount of money for it, but the lesson was in running the business. So I didn't even fully understand what he had to do with the grafting or anything. He just kind of left it up to me to do the manual work, to lay them down and to cover them in sawdust, and then to go and cut them and bale them up together. But kind of an easy job, but the lesson was in running the business and having people work for you, and yeah, so he's always teaching us to try and be smart with our money, and they were always about running a business and not sort of, being not working for someone else, working for yourself. So
yeah,
some good lessons early on.
It's funny that I think back now as a dude in his 30s, the shit that my dad would like make me do, and like I wish I could go back and relive the lessons from my dad, but with a way more open mind and not thinking that he's trying to fucking dog me.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Oh, it's so hard. But, I remember being a kid and just having all this to do these fucked up chores and all this dumb shit that like I was just so over it. But he knew what he was doing. But the messaging was lost on me. Like we had a messaging problem. I just thought I was being punished. But like I look back now, I'm so grateful for everything, and we had like a 50-50 rule. So if I had to buy my first bike.
Yep.
So Dad said it was 50-50. You save half, I'll pay half. So like mountain bikes, BMX, all that, any of the shit that I wanted to do was 50-50. And I mean,
nice.
I got a job. My first job was at a video store, 9 months. Like literally the day that you could do it, like legally work. And then I think before that I worked in my uncle's raw materials, but then I backed into someone's ute with a fucking front end loader. I was only 13. And they're like, oh no, I think we're going to clip this.
Yeah.
But that was good lessons. Like, Dad said, oh, you can do this and you can do this. And he like laid out the timeline, and I got a job the first day I could get a job. I got my license the first day I was at.
Same.
I had it in my head. I guess I just wanted to grow up maybe. Like I wanted to be independent.
Yeah, I was definitely the same with the license.
That was freedom, eh?
Yeah. The first day, the day of my birthday. It was a weekday, thankfully. It was just boom, straight in there to get my L's as soon as I could. And then the day I turned 17 was the day I went in and did my test for my P's. So.
Yeah. No, I did the same shit. I said to Mum and Dad, I was like, I gotta have this much for a car and this much. Mum's like, just chill, man. You might not get it. And I was like, I'm fucking getting it, dude. Like, I've studied harder for this L's test than any test in school ever.
They got it hard nowadays, though. I was a bit annoyed that we had, I think, 20 hours we had to do on our learners before we could get our P's, and now it's something like 100 hours.
How old are you?
35.
Oh, so really? So you had to do hours and stuff back in WA?
Yeah.
We didn't have none of that. I think you do now. But when I got mine, I got my learners, and then I had that. It was 6 months, I think, and then I got my P's, and that was it. I didn't have to do. I just had to hold my learners and then do a driver's test. I didn't have to do logbooks. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, right. I just know when we were 16, we could apply for our L's, and we had to get a logbook. I think it was 20 must have been 25 hours, but then a few years later it went up to 50, and I think it went up to 100. I mean, I cheated enough on the 20 hours.
The 20, yeah.
So how stupid, but I guess. I was lucky enough to grow up on a farm, so I had a lot of extra driving experience. So, not everyone gets that opportunity. Yeah,
well, that's one of the things. Like, I had a stage where I was like, if I have kids, I don't think I'll let them race and ride bikes and all that, because you know the injuries and shit.
Yeah.
But I look back at it now, like I've never been in a car accident. I've always been able to fix my shit. I've had like radiators blow up in cars, you know what I mean? Like you just there's a certain skill level, and it'd be even more for you guys like living fully on the farm like that. But man, valuable skills to learn for life.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really, really grateful of growing up on a farm. So many lessons, like having an older brother as well doing this stuff. I guess I was a little bit seemed like more of a lost child, like just wander and days off all the time. But everything like Dad, farming wasn't that lucrative, or it still isn't unless you're giant corporation. But you can't just, if a tractor breaks, you can't always just get someone who can't take it into a mechanic shop and pay $100 an hour or whatever. Yeah. So a lot of things you'd have to fix yourself and make do. Like an implement would break, and you need to know how to weld and know basic mechanics. And so we learnt a lot of that stuff, and I loved fabrication, mechanical, fixing, repairing, just doing stuff with my hands. So awesome place to do it.
Have you ever had, with all, like, you've seen literally all of the world, have you ever had a pull to leave WA and, you know, live in a city or live in a different place, or is that, or you're just never going to leave that farm?
No, well, so I've thought about it. Like early years in freestyle, I thought, you know, I needed a bit of land. I was grateful that Dad had, you know, had a bit of bushland on the farm that I could build some jumps. But like as freestyle took off, I thought, you know, I don't know how I'm going to do it for. Is it worth moving to another country to be more central? And we weighed up a few options, and like to be a non-resident of Australia, I had to basically, you know, we'd got an investment. My brother and sisters got an investment house, and I kind of just had to move everything, bank accounts and everything, and have a house somewhere else to be non-resident if it was going to work out better for tax. But you know, I loved being there on the farm, and it might have been a bit of extra travel, longer commute, but I think
commute,
yeah,
the most remote city in the world.
I know. Some people are like, oh, it's great, you get to see the world. Like, no, I commute for 30 to 40 hours.
I see planes.
Yeah.
I live in a fuselage.
There's been a few events where I've spent more time on the plane than I did in the city. Horrible.
Well, that's our. You know what? I feel ya, and that's why we're doing this Man Gym Up trip.
Yes,
it's time for us to feel the pain of being in a car for longer than being at the race.
Yeah, but at least you can stop and every now and then get out, stretch your legs, and you know.
Oh, the planes, but man, those dude. So what's the worst flight that you've done then from Perth? There'd be some doozies.
Oh, look. I mean, one of the worst is just a red eye coming over east.
Oh,
like in the
here?
flights, yeah.
That is the shittest flight I've ever done.
And if you're not that exhausted during the day, physical exhaustion is just a lot different to mental. So
yeah.
You can feel tired, but if you've been sitting all day, you know you can get away with 3 or 4 hours sleep, no worries, and still
function.
Yeah, I've done that. Done an event in America, flown to Dubai for a competition, had a couple of hours sleep on the plane, and we got there at 6 a.m. and I went straight out and practiced and went through a day as normal. But then on the way back, I had a few days, got beat up. It might not have been the worst flight, but the flight back from Dubai back to US to continue on the Nitro Tour, I was with Clinton Moore, and we were both so jet lagged. It was horrible. Didn't know if we needed more sleep, less sleep.
Yeah.
I had a few hits, so I was bruised and sore, and thankfully we had some physios on Nitro that just dry needles everywhere to loosen up all these sore muscles, and we were both doing the show, and there's one I had it on my helmet cam, but a part of the show where we do side by side ruler flips.
Yeah.
the only venue, all pretty tight, like indoor ice arenas or ice hockey stadiums. So we'd land, it wouldn't have much room. They'd put all these paddings around,
the
the
airbag
outside.
sort of thing.
And yeah, on the left, so there was just mattresses, padding in front of me. But Clinton, where he jumped, there was, I feel like, the only venue that ever had a doorway leading out of there. And we landed, and I had obviously had a bit more throttle and kind of almost got whiskey and just got on the brakes enough. And Clint did the same, but he just whiskey wound it on and went straight through. The bike went through, mattress clotheslined him, took him off the bike, and thankfully our security guy Matty told the guard to move out of the doorway in case the bike came through, because it just Clint just landed his second wound rod and picked the only hole out of the stadium. But we both realised it's just like we were actually dangerous on a bike. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's hard to know. There's jet lag, but you can be tired, you can be physically exhausted, you can be sore. Lactic acid, just all these things come into play, and they all affect you differently. And we didn't really know what we
didn't know what was up, down, back, front.
Yeah, didn't know what to do. Tried sleeping more, tried doing stuff. Just needed a couple of days, I think. Sleep
deprivation is weird. Like, have you ever done any? It's something I sort of like half want to do. Is like some kind of sleep deprivation, because I've done some gnarly flights. Like, we did one. We went from California to Detroit to Ireland to Hamburg. This was to film like a rock concert, like a rock band. We were going on tour with this band through Europe. And then we got to Hamburg. It was like, I can't remember what time we left or when but it was just this constant fucking trip across the world. Landed in Hamburg. The band hit us up and they're like, hey, we've had our passports stolen in Berlin, so we won't be in Hamburg. So we'll meet you guys in Cologne in 2 days. So we were like, fuck Hamburg, we're going to Amsterdam. And we were all kind of crossed up because we'd had this weird sleeping thing on the flights and the whole deal. So then we get there, we just weren't tired, even though it's probably been like 30 hours at this point. Weren't tired. So we're like, fuck Hamburg, we're going to Amsterdam. And then so my business partner at the time is Dutch, he's never been there. So we're like, we're going to Amsterdam. Go drive on the Autobahn, fucking wedged. Like just pinned the whole.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
It was sick. That was the other reason why I wanted to go too. I wanted to go on the Autobahn. We had a pretty cool like Audi, standard sort of thing there. Fucking wedged, dude. But like we left at probably 11 o'clock at night from Hamburg to go to Amsterdam. We got to Amsterdam at 5 a.m. Fucked, like completely roached. We couldn't check into any hotels, so we're sleeping in this rental car on the side of a canal in Amsterdam, and it's like 40 minutes before sunrise, and then sun comes up and everyone's walking and riding their bikes past us and shit. We end up booking a hotel at the airport. We're like, fuck, we've just got to get some sleep. It was the first place we could get into, and got to the hotel, unloaded our shit. The band calls us. We got our passports back. The show's on in Hamburg in like 10 hours. So then we fucking had like 2 hours sleep, and then I drove back, and dude, like I was doing the windows down. Had my hand, like it was winter. I had my head out the fucking thing with like some sunnies on, like slab. I was fucked. Like we got to this show, and I think it ruined our trip, to be honest. Yeah. Like those few days for weeks, man. Like we drove from there. We drove like all through the UK, all through Scotland. It was a big trip, but that I just felt weird. Don't like. It's like almost like delusional,
Yes. Yeah. It's like worse than I remember someone explaining when we were kids. Like the sleep deprivation's most of a hangover. Like it's the worst.
Yeah,
thing for you.
yeah.
I figured all the stats around it, but it was way worse than what I thought. But since discovered that after traveling for years and having to have flights at odd times and had to be so smart sometimes with when I went to bed on the plane and what I did, just sometimes it's really hard to sleep. Sometimes you can't keep yourself awake, but you've got to make an effort to start adapting before you even get over there, so you're not ruined when you get there. And it's tricky, but actually you were saying you wouldn't mind doing some training that's like a sleep deprivation, but so SAS kind of training. Yeah, so that's like the Navy SEALs and the SAS, and that the biggest thing of their training is not physical, but it's mental. Yes.
And they're putting them through this sleep deprivation because apparently like that's the thing that makes people break. Like if you want to figure out like where you're at mentally, sleep deprivation. Yeah. That's the way that you really, test yourself. And the other thing, actually, I wonder if have you ever done any fasting or anything like that?
Not for that long, no.
Yeah, okay.
More than a day.
Yeah, so I want to do like a 2-day. I want to start with like I feel like I'd be able to do 24 hours pretty easily.
You would, easy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to do a 2-day or a 3-day fast. Because apparently that shit is awesome for your stomach and digestion. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's like I've heard if you eat dinner early enough, it's quite a good fast to go into a breakfast. But even a lot of diets incorporate a fast day in there, and it is great to let your body, take everything out of your guts and you kind of just cleanse your body, get rid of some chemicals and nasties, and I think it works good with sugars and stuff in our diet as well. We get too much, too much grain and too many sugars where, it's excess, so our body might want to store a bit for later, but I feel like it's always better even if you have rubbish, like if you just fart or let your guts completely run out and you go through that bit of a burning hunger and then that almost goes away, like you sort of, it's good sort of reset. Yeah,
I've heard about it a lot recently, and then I was listening to a podcast with George St. Pierre, the fighter, And he talked about he like regularly does 3-day fasts and he loves it. And he said he trains the whole way through it.
Yeah.
It's just like a thing that he really enjoys, but I think it's like mentally. But I think, I think the sleep deprivation thing is like the real I don't know why I feel like compelled to fucking do
It's
that.
a challenge.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a weird sort of thing to do.
Yeah, I know I missed out on it, but our local footy team did a bit of some pre-season bonding. But one of the local guys there did SAS for a couple of years, and so he ran them through a couple of nights of training exercises, let them go to sleep, wake them back up half an hour later, flip some tyres, go to sleep, and just kind of do that and have to work together. But when you're all tired and grumpy and angry, and so it's good for some team bonding and just basically team building lessons, learning how to not just be pissed off with each other all the time.
Yeah. You were real into your training for, like, it seems like when you were kind of started doing these nationals and stuff like that, and you were, it's the WA events, but it seems like you really got into like the physicality side of it. You were like a real calculated and like methodical about the way that you approached freestyle, like physically and mentally. Like, is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I remember doing like an aptitude test and realizing that I'm quite analytical with a lot of things, and like with some things it seems a little anal, with some things it doesn't.
What would be
help
like
out
an
at all,
anal?
no, just say bike preparation or something like that. I can, I break things down a bit too much and think, I need to have this like this, and a bit too much time to think about it. But maybe sometimes it will just slow me down if I'm doing work and I think about how things are working. Think, this has to, instead of just sort of getting in and doing the work, I kind of try and process too much and think, it has to be done right. It has to be, it just ends up, nothing changes. It just takes me way longer because I think I have to do it a certain way. But certainly doesn't help with cleanliness. I'm not a very clean, tidy, organised person.
I feel like that's a trait of people like that, because I feel like I'd put myself in that category as well. Like, I love to
OCD.
I don't know whether it'd be OCD, but like I really have to understand shit.
Yeah.
Like, really, once like I get obsessed. Like, jiu-jitsu is a perfect example. Like, I know so much more about jiu-jitsu than my body is capable of doing.
Yeah.
So like my brain level of jiu-jitsu is so far ahead. So like I literally will spend like the next years of jiu-jitsu like just catching up. Like,
right.
Because you can't, like, there's just a certain level of control over your own limbs and flexibility and, even just ability to do the thing that's in your head on a person of like a height, So there's so much, but in terms of like, I started doing it and I just got extremely obsessed with it. Yeah. And I was like, I have to understand this. I have to know how this thing works, even if I can't do it. And I'm sort of the same about motocross, like golf, anything that is like technically, there's like a lot of technique in it and it's like multi-layer. There's, I guess, like the meta, like you've got this overall thing and then here's like the metadata that exists within it. I just fucking love I love living in metadata.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I definitely like to understand and, and certainly compared to my brother, I always analysed things a lot more and he was a lot more gung-ho. That's how I kind of realised I was a little bit different, but it kind of slowed me down in a few areas, but kind of helped me out in some areas too, because I was a bit more, like with training, motocross training, he would just go and give something crack when I would think, don't want this to happen or want to try and eliminate some problems or some injuries or whatever. And so it kind of helped me, maybe prolonged. I certainly one in the life department, but I just try a bit harder with making things right, making things work instead of just sort of giving it a crack and hoping for the best.
Yeah. And so how did that fit into freestyle at first?
Because obviously quite had some balls when I was younger, just a lot of teenagers, you feel unbreakable, but just because I like to understand things, and like for the flip, there's obviously a lot going into the mental side of things to be able to commit to it, but I could see myself doing because I understood exactly what needed to be done. I understand the physics behind it. Like the bike's heavy, I need to move my weight off the back to almost do a wheelie off the end of the ramp. And just because I could understand that, it was easy for me to picture what I was doing. And so then easy to do it then, because once you can visualize something, you're halfway there. So then a lot of tricks were a little like that, where I could just picture what I had to do before I started learning. Like say a thing like a double flip might not be the same because you're just thinking spin faster and hold on for two, but some tricks you had to really break down what you're doing. Like a seat grab flip was one that took me a while because I had to, if you flip and you take your feet off, you drift away from your bike. So, but then the grab part is sort of behind your legs almost. So it's like I had to. It wasn't until I saw Tom Pages doing it, flipping and having his bum right back. It looked a bit awkward, but straightening your legs and having your bum back opened up the... Before you then took your feet off. Yeah, so that having your legs back freed up the grab area, so then I could like flip, lean back, grab it, and I'd sort of break down the process, so then run that through my head, and so then when I was starting to flip, I could just, when I was learning the trick, I could just go bit by bit. All right, lean back, yep, get that bit right, and then just sort of add to it each time. But I had to be able to break some tricks down in my head into stages and sort of understand what happened for me to be able to work it out and then go and do them. Yeah, so then you've got like these two levels to doing something like that, because I feel like I could understand a backflip, but I'm definitely not going to do one. So, you know, like there's two parts that you've got to have to make up, you know, like the person like you that can do all this shit that no one else in the world's even done before. So I don't know, what's the second part then, that like the want to do it and then the committing to it? Like have you put much thought into the breakdown of those particular areas? Yeah, well there's the I guess the mental side of things, being confident. Like I remember listening to someone explain how there's a portion of us that react differently to adrenaline, and so some people might freeze, and then some people like feel like, for us, it almost slows time down, and you take in more. Like sometimes it's a bit much, but you feed off it, and so that's one key is you kind of need to. If you're a person that's either like well, I guess if you have that, you can put yourself into a scary situation and still work with it. But then someone that might not be that kind of person, they might have to go about it another way to progress to get a backflip. Like they, like trampoline is a good one. If you've got a bungee or something, you get the feeling of a rotation in your head. I knew learning a flip that once I started the rotation, I knew that like momentum would keep going. But some people just, as soon as they get upside down, they freak out. Yeah. So I knew that I was, if I started the rotation, I didn't have to worry about what happened in the air, because I'd just keep rotating. Then I'd just wait until I could see the landing again. But it's there's that mental strength is a big thing. If you can visualize it, if you can understand it, and trust in yourself, believe in yourself is a huge thing, a big help. And then there's got to be like a motivating factor. Yeah, true. So like, what's that for you? Do you reckon? Yeah, I feel like with everything there has to be a motivating factor. Why? There's a book for it. It all starts with why. Why you do something, you want to drive behind it. But for me, I just love pushing my limits, to be honest. To start, ever since I was a kid, I just rules, whether it's just with the parents or doing anything. Like my brother and I just loved pushing it. If we made a jump, we just want to go bigger, or jump high, or jump further, or do another flip into the water, or just whatever we were doing, we just had to sort of keep pushing ourselves, pushing past our limits, basically. And there's a certain level of like, even if it's trivial, like, because this is one of the things I think about with jiu-jitsu is like it's quite trivial. Like there's definitely like a very practical element of jiu-jitsu. Like there's a very important self-defense component, but I also never want to use that. Like I never want to be in a situation where it's a thing that I even have to use. And then you go to a competition and you fly to Melbourne and you fucking fight all these dudes, and then
it's trivial. It doesn't actually make sense. Or not that it doesn't make sense, but it's like it's sort of pointless, especially if you never want to use it in a real situation.
Yeah, it's like
but
learning to fight, but you don't want to fight.
yeah, but there is some kind of fulfillment that comes from, whatever that there is a motivating factor there, and then that does cause fulfillment. And it'd be the same for you. Like, yeah, it might be like you just want to do an extra backflip into the dam over your brother.
I feel like that's a big one, motivating factor for me, especially, was not only to push my limits, but to accomplish something bigger, something better. Just to like problem solving and stuff like that. I like not only doing the problem, but the sense of finishing it, completing something, learning something new, and you can get to the other side or learn a new trick and think, that felt good. I learned something new, progressed. It's life's all about progressing. I feel like every day, every industry is progressing all the time. So
yeah,
you can progress faster or slower, and I just like to progress as fast as I possibly could in whatever I was doing.
That sort of makes freestyle kind of unique in a sense. Oh, I suppose you could kind of apply it to everything, but like you're progressing in yourself on your farm in WA, where there's no cameras, there's no one watching, and no one really cares. It's just you care, and you're doing it, and your friends that you're around. Yeah. But then you take that to then a competition, and then, so there's like the two sort of elements. There's like the progression thing, but then there's also the competitive side where you then take that to a competition, and you're like, I want to win. I want to use what I've done here to there. And it's like a weird thing, because you're almost... It's probably not even about winning the competition as much as it's about doing what you've practiced somewhere where it counts.
Yeah, well, for me, it was always competitive. A family, 5 kids, athletic. We were all just competitive against each other. So that was another thing that I did like. I never went to a competition to impress anyone. I guess it was two sides. There was me, sort of proving to myself that I could do the tricks, or just basically doing these tricks that I'd learnt to do. But also, you get to that point where you also want to beat other people.
Yeah.
There. And it's just, I feel like a lot of times I think, I'm not too worried what I get, leading up to the competition. And when you get there, all you want to do is win. Yeah. You want to beat the other guy. So obviously there's limits. It's not like, say, a sprinting race or something where it's like you just give it everything. Like with freestyle, there are limits. You can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
And anything further than that, you're risking injury or death. Some guys copped it worse, but yeah, it's very dangerous when you're trying to do things that you hadn't done or you hadn't practiced before. So yeah, I guess the main competition is with yourself, to stay
within the limit.
Yeah,
do everything that you can do 100%.
Yeah, I feel like early days, some of the guys, Deegan, Pastrana, those guys, I feel like they'd on the edge, like they could do stuff and they would often push the limits. But I think maybe being a bit older when I started in freestyle, a lot of the guys like Levi, Jacko, those guys were started quite young and had already copped a lot of injuries by the time I'd started. But you get to a certain age, sort of mid-20s, closer to 30, and you really think twice about injuries and stuff like that. And so starting later, I was motivated, but I think I feel like I might have... I just thought about things a lot more, so I only had to put up with a couple of years of stupid stuff before I smartened up and thought, I better not do that, better learn right and, practice things and try and look after myself a bit better. So I avoided a lot of injuries.
Man, it's funny you just mentioned Jacko and Levi. Jacko, fucking weird wizard dude with, like engineering, flying planes, like building his own shit, very mechanically, like there's some shit going on there. Levi Sherwood, CNC machines, build his own, like there's a theme that goes at the top level of freestyle. And Travis, he's a smart motherfucker.
He is.
There's a lot of physics that he is aware of, and so that it's very interesting. Like you guys at that top level of that sport, there's some very unique shit that goes on mentally, I reckon.
Yeah, there is. I never really sort of compared myself with them too much. I'd look up to them. Jacko, when I was younger, I thought was an idiot, but realised
He's actually like the smartest dude ever.
Really smart. He just does dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But Levi was always, little secretive about doing things, but is really clever. I love seeing the creations and stuff that he's been doing. Is really talented bloke.
Yeah, and it's just it's a weird trend that there's personality types that suit in certain things, and there's obviously there's a little bit of a recipe. Like there's obviously room for variation.
Yeah.
And there's different factors that can come in. Like you're not the same as Jacko. Like he's a wildly different person to you.
Hope not.
But in terms of, there's definitely some very similar ingredients that when you add them together, that they produce these dudes that are able to do this like really crazy, unique shit on dirt bikes.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel like one thing that at least most of us have is coming from a sort of rural or farming background.
Yeah, true, eh?
There's just that upbringing. You get a lot more room. You sort of, you need somewhere to ride. So for starters, it's much harder for someone in the city to take up the sport without having somewhere to practice it. But yeah, just being on the farm, you feel like maybe you're a bit more resourceful. Like you have to make do with things, and you have to sort of get yourself where you want to be. And I just thought it was impossible to become a freestyle rider. I had to be in America to be a professional freestyle motocross rider, but I think that in the same sense gave me the motivation, pushed myself. I didn't push myself to be there. I knew that, to get anywhere, I had to push myself more than I ever thought. So just sort of worked hard and didn't know where it was going to take me.
There is a level, and this is definitely what you got to, where, and I don't know whether this is like, sometimes it feels like this is lost on people. Like we actually posted a video with Deegan. We had Deegan on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty funny line. He was like, well, fucking tell your dad if he wasn't such a pussy, maybe you could have all this cool shit too. And he was sort of talking about like he didn't have any special opportunities. He didn't have anything. He just fucking did it. Like he became undeniable.
Yeah.
And I think that you always, that there is like a mentality of people that will never do anything because they have this mentality of like, it took something special. You got lucky. This happened. You had that. But it's like, you look at a guy like you, it's like, you shouldn't be one of the best freestyle riders ever.
Yeah.
That's not, you from an apple farm in WA. Like that's not the prerequisite. You didn't grow up in Southern California, or you weren't around the X Games. You didn't have industry connections. But there's a certain level that, like what you just said, of I just kind of had to focus on myself and work hard. What you ended up doing was becoming undeniable. It didn't matter that you lived in Perth. It didn't matter that you didn't have any of these connections. And all of the shit that could be a potential excuse now doesn't matter because you did the things that you did. You became this undeniable talent within the sport, and then the rest of it just takes care of itself, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's you just working hard because you're passionate. You just want to be the best you can be. It's like entered a competition because I wanted to see how it'd go. I wanted to win, and then during that competition you meet someone that's running another event, and then it's through the passion and through pushing yourself and progression that you meet these people and all these doors are opened, and it just wouldn't happen if you didn't learn the tricks, if you didn't push yourself, if you didn't give it a crack.
and the thing is that you were doing all of that before the opportunities were there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times people will look at the you that's there now, and you're like, oh, look how easy it is for him to practice. He's got an airbag. It's like, well, I didn't have one.
Yeah, it is funny like that. It's it's easy. It is really easy to look at people and say, yeah, like there were opportunities. I mean, everyone gets opportunities, but you have to also be prepared for when that opportunity comes around. Like the first few, I had to pay, had to get myself to these rev heads. I crashed, had to go through recovery, had to, I was lucky I had the room on the farm, but I still had to build the jumps, had a Bobcat that was hired. I think the old man had hired on. It's just still had to pay for diesel. The old man, I still had to work on the farm to pay for my bike, to buy things like that, and right up to X Games, like my first X Games, I got a bronze in best trick, and
What trick was that with?
just double flip. Jacko did a front flip. Sinclair did a
I remember
double
that,
flip.
yeah.
Knack. And just like on TV, like, oh, congrats, you got a third. It's like that was a horrible weekend. It was terrible. I went there with my mate Ash, who ride with, but he's a mechanic as well. And in practice, I was doing one hand takeoff flips. I remember Nate Adams doing them.
That.
Just off super kicker, and I did one in practice. I was under rotating, not going to make it, so I jumped over the front and just smashed. Didn't break it, but jarred my ankle so hard it was just I could barely walk, and it was swollen, and had to strap it up to jam it in my motocross boot, so could barely even walk on that. And then I think I must have got my best trick done. I only just snuck that around, which was awesome. It was just an accomplishment to finally did one to do it. But then in the freestyle,
Was that the first time you'd done one to do it?
Yeah. I think I did a couple. I was at Travis's beforehand. I think I'd been to X Fighters, back to Travs, and we'd bunch into the pit. I did a couple to his mulch pile, but mulch a bit soft, sort of get to the wheels and got sucked in and just
Yeah.
But then in the freestyle competition, I tried hard for a rule flip, and as I straightened up, looked through a bit too hard and dislocated one shoulder and my right shoulder, and so it sort of got back to my bike, but washed out, and I was done. And like people were like, yeah, congrats on gold, but I couldn't walk, I couldn't move my arm. My mate Ash had to do everything, had to cart my bags. I was like just struggling to move around, and it's just horrible. But you just there's all this training and stuff that goes on in the background, and it's never easy, but I guess you need a burning desire to learn or to progress, no matter what comes in your way.
And it's weird, like you're so right, you need that burning desire, but like none of us know where the fuck that comes from.
Yeah,
none of us know how to cultivate it. None of us know. It's just you either have that desire for that thing or you don't.
Yeah,
it's fucking weird.
And talking about some people say they've got an opportunity. Some people are also just happy to cruise, so they don't want to step too far out of their comfort zone. So I guess different people are happy with different things, and I was like one of those ADD kids where didn't want to sit still, didn't want to be in class, but always wanted to be doing something outside, and just loved being extreme, basically. Sort of showing off and just pushing my limits. So what was your like big break, you reckon, that really sort of started the whole kind of deal? When I
like events wise, I guess.
I feel like the last Honda, in when was it? Super X was in 08. So
yeah.
I was lucky that Honda sent me that bike over, so I was able to ride it, train, and got back to learn the ruler flip and a couple of other flip tricks and regular motocross freestyle tricks. Later in the year when Super X was around, we had to get ourselves there, but Honda they held a bike over there. I think that's what happened. But anyway, they'd had a bike there for me. I just had to I think I took some parts over, or maybe they'd set up the suspension for me or something. But I had to get myself to the competition. So there was like Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney,
Townsville that year.
Townsville, yeah.
I think it rained in Townsville though that year.
Is that the last one?
I think so, yeah.
Complete washout. They basically rebuilt the whole track in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so that was Townsville or Brisbane?
Oh, there was a Brisbane one that was real wet too.
So I feel like maybe the last one that was in Brisbane, that was when I won. So the first few events, basically had to fly myself over there. Cost me $1,500 or whatever, flights, accommodation, and you'd get a couple of $100 back if you won prize money. If you got, say, a podium, you might pay for your way. And by the third round, that was when I think Levi was injured, and kind of opened up a bit of a doorway, and with my ruler flip and a few bits like that, a few decent tricks, I was able to win the last one. And that was when a guy who worked for Krusty Demons at the time said, "Hey, do you want to have a crack at Krusty Demons tour coming up?" And so I was just like, sick, always wanted to. That was a bit of a door opening there, bit of a turning point because Krusty Demons at the time, it was, say, in Australia it was Ultimate, but then the guys that ran Krusties at the time, then most of them, the promoter was then involved with Nitro Circus later on, and you just sort of, these guys know guys and you meet guys, and just all of a sudden all these doors were opened. Our mate Steve Sommerfeld, I think Clint Moore was going over to a IFMX Night of the Jumps event over in Europe. Yeah. And I think he was injured one event, and there was a free spot, and Steve had rang me up, said, "Do you want to get to this? Fly over." It's a bit of a trial, I guess, to see how we go, see how there's always a bit of even if you can ride, they do like everyone to get on at these events. So flew over there and hung out with the Germans, and we got along, we had fun, did all right, and so they were happy to.
They were crazy, those Night of the fucking, what was it called? Night of the Jumps. Yeah, I remember those events on like the Nitro movies and shit. They were just like fucking, dude. European fans are just insane across the board, right?
Yes, there are a lot of insane people.
It's crazy.
France was a really big one, like Paris-Bercy Supercross.
Yep.
I think 2011, 10 or 11, I got to do one of those, and that was amazing. It was an eye opener. So it was almost like a Supercross event in Kwinana at home. There's just Krusties did a show in Kwinana years ago, and I remember they'd have to do double fencing because we got a heap of bogans in WA, and they're just like, hanging off the fences, and guys would want to jump the fence, and I think they jumped the fence and they just had to leave everything and get out of there that year. But
was that the first year for the Krusty show? Because Deegan was, there's that famous, it was the first ever Krusty shows in Australia ever.
I think it might have
And then there was all like the bikies and shit were involved in running it, and it was just in the fucking field. And then like they're all the Krusty boys are legit on the mic being like, "Tear this fucking place apart, fucking burn the cop cars," and like fully incited a riot.
I think that was it. Yeah. They basically just ditched it.
And then they were just like, "All right, see ya."
So I got to watch them when they come to Bunbury, and I was quite young then. But
shout out Bunbury, Gypsy Tales of Ride Day coming soon.
Yeah, a couple of cameras around the place. Yeah, I'll have to.
You can come do some laps, eh?
Yeah, I don't get out on the track often enough these days, so when I've got a bike with soft enough suspension, it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah, those shows in Europe were just crazy, right?
Yeah, so Paris-Bercy is a classic. The French, they love a couple of drinks and they get rowdy and loud.
Yeah.
And, I remember being outside, and the original Paris-Bercy building, it's like it's kind of built into a hill, and there was a bit of a it's almost like a 45-degree. I think there might have been grass on the side of the building. It was funny. And then there was like a staggered retaining wall down the bottom. I remember people climbing up and sliding down, and then just going too fast and just slamming the steps and just tumbling down and just breaking limbs, sliding down the edge of this building. But I was just chuckling, thinking, yeah.
Well, that's like those. That's like. Have you ever seen those? Ronan, can you Google? What would we type in? Like I don't know. Have you seen those places where they just roll down hills? Yeah. They do those running races. Find that. Dude,
tumbling cheese or something like that.
Yeah, like that's so Euro. It's out of control.
Yeah, right.
What's it called? The cheese chase. Yeah. Like, what are these guys up to? Where is this?
I said Britain, didn't it?
Turn it down, right? Yeah. Like, this is so European. It's insane. What's the appeal of this? But there's ones that I've seen that they've like let logs go down the hills as well. What's that one?
Oh, there's a log ride where I think they start off.
They slide down on it. Dude, she just ate shit.
Oh, she'd be beat up.
Oh no, that's a broken wrist. What are they up to? But like this is.
So that's You can't even see the cheese there, can you? They've just rolled it down and they're all trying to get to it first.
Oh, dude. But then, like, think about it. Madrid, running of the bulls.
Yeah.
Like, what are these? What is up in Europe with all this shit?
You haven't been to the...
We do
Pamplona
summer
for the
nats.
running
They
the
do
bulls,
that.
but yeah, it's
Yeah,
couple
we
of cool events I'd love to get across to.
Nah, that's...
Not
oh,
that
there
one,
we go.
though.
Right. No, go down. Yeah, this one's in Japan. What is... I fully don't understand any of this. This is pretty sick, though. Like, that seems super gnarly. Oh. So for those just listening on iTunes, we're watching a bunch of Japanese men ride a huge tree down a massive hill and just get fucked up.
And it worked.
But yeah, I don't know what it is about like these countries. They just love that sort of shit.
Yeah, everyone's got their weird ideas, weird things that they do.
But yeah, the European shows and like crowds and stuff is just insane.
Yeah. I just something about them. So the first couple of European Nitro Circus tours we did were epic. So through the winter, obviously, pardon me, not much, not many activities going on outdoors. It's quite cold, snowing in most countries, and we had some epic crowds in the big. So a lot of them were fairly tight, ice hockey stadiums.
Yeah.
We got a couple of big soccer fields that were huge, but gee, some of the crowds, there's obviously not much going on, so they're all pumped. They just love whatever's going on. But man, they're loud, crazy. They're animals. They're awesome.
So it's crazy because you're young and you're seeing the world for the first time while also doing these insane tricks. Like, there's a lot going on to process when you're Josh Sheehan first doing all these shows, right? Because it wouldn't have been like you travelled to Europe and travelled all over the world before this.
Nah. I was lucky enough, those few Night of the Jumps events, went to some weird country Russia, and, get a bit freaked out in some areas.
What was Russia like?
Bit all over the place. We, like, some of the big cities were just like cities. They kind of seemed a bit grumpier in general, but I think it's just that cold that
Yeah.
you can't show any emotion. But some of the, like, we went to Penza in Russia. I think we landed in Moscow, and
Google Penza. I want to see Penza.
they told us it was 500 or 600k bus ride.
Yeah, there you go. City in Russia. Go
And
down.
we thought, yeah, no worries, 6-hour drive, and then 12 hours later we got there, and it's just terrible roads and just such a slow drive.
So crazy, eh?
Yeah, just different. Like I think we went to one club for an after party, and you think, what else goes on in here? Some of the places look so weird.
Really?
Yeah, I know in Germany there were some. I heard about some clubs that kind of apparently they have, like, say, a certain night of the week they'll have chains and swings, and it's like an
like
orgy
a full
club.
sex party shit.
Russia was a bit weird. Like, there were so many tall, slim, beautiful girls walking around, but then the clubs just seemed dodgy, and let the girls in, and I was kind of too scared to go into some of them. But it was always pretty quick. We'd only spent those couple of nights in Penza, and then mission back to the airport to get out of there.
Did you feel like you got to take in what exactly was going on?
Not a lot of the time. Like, I mean, a lot of the time we'd just get there. There might only be one day off. Like, we'd get there the day off, build the bike or whatever, a bit of media, hang out, and then it'd just be hotel, venue, do the event, hotel, get out of there. So there are some places that we got a couple of days off, or like a nitro tour, but still, it was like never more than a day or two off between shows. So get a bit of a look around, go see the local, old church building,
Whatever the oldest thing is that you can find.
Yeah. And then it's just like, oh yeah, I feel like I've seen it. Who's the song? I feel like Paul Kelly does a version, but there's a song. It's called "Every Fucking City Sounds the Same."
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I listened to that, and although I don't like swearing, sorry, but it's just a funny song because he's chasing a girl around Europe, and then every city he goes to, it all feels the same, and that's how I feel. You know, I love the countryside, and every time I go to a city, it's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. So you feel that in cities, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel more at home when I can just run amok, make noise, you know, thrash cars, ride bikes, do all that stuff, and not have to bother anyone. I feel like everywhere I travel, like the bigger the city, or the more places I go to, the more I appreciate at home where I'm from.
Yeah.
It might be 2.5 hour drive every time I have to fly somewhere, but that 2.5 hour drive is, you know, there's the podcast, whatever. You learn how to spend the time, how to make the time go faster. But to come back down to the southwest, there's a lot of farming. We don't have too many hills. It's not extremely hilly where we are, but there are some good mountain bike trails around, some good motorbike trails, and yeah, it's just a nice area. It's nice, a bit wet in winter, but just beautiful.
Yeah. What is it like, or what's the WA person's view on the East Coast? Like, does it feel like there's a pretty big disconnect? Like, do Western Australians just feel like they're Western Australians more than Australians in a way? Like, that sounds like extreme, but you know what I mean?
No, probably like Kiwis, where they feel like they're part of Australia, but we know that they're not.
Yeah.
No, it's.
I'm not saying it's like a bad thing.
No,
but it's, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like there's not really a, you know, it's just we're just far away.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool in a way that, not too many people head back and forth because it's too far. And so up the west coast is beautiful up north of Perth, because there's no one up there. You can often get to these, you know, beautiful white beaches, clear blue ocean, and there's just not a person in sight. You've got a massive private beach, just you and a couple of poisonous jellyfish and a few sharks. If you go up north enough, they're there. But yeah, it's just similar. Like there might be a lot more hilly landscape around sort of, you know, Sydney south. I mean, a lot of cool things up Queensland. I mean, all along the coast, really. The east coast, there is a lot to see and do. WA is just, it's nice, but in its own way. It's very remote, very not very many people, but it's cool.
It's funny, you think about WA. I'll just rattle off some random names like Taj Burrows, Sam Hill, Josh Sheehan, Regan Duffy, Jeff Leask. Like, keep going.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, Danny Rick. How'd I forget Danny Rick?
Yeah, talking about him last night.
Yeah, like how many legitimately gnarly motherfuckers. Like Sam Hill. Like, talk about a unicorn. Like, that dude's a fucking unicorn.
He's an animal.
Complete animal. So there's a weird thing that goes on. So I grew up in Cairns, and obviously not as disconnected as Perth and WA, but I felt like growing up in that ecosystem, like our friend group, Jack Miller, Todd Waters, Jackson Richardson, Wade Hunter, Mitch Evans, Wilson Todd, like all those dudes have won either MotoGP, Australian titles, motocross GP, podium. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you want some water? We'll, yeah. Yeah. Go. Just go. Just keep the camera on Sheeny and then grab him some extra H2O.
Thanks, mate.
But I need to get like a big fucking water jug for there.
Yeah, and a filter on it, because town water is terrible.
Yeah, sorry, mate. We fucked you there. I didn't realise that your water quality was so intense. Oh, otherwise, I would have fucking...
Some quality H2O.
That's some hard quality. But yeah, I always felt like that isolation made us maybe not really even know where the limits were. So you end up just doing your own thing, and you end up finding your own limits. And when you've got enough guys that are around pushing each other, that isolation definitely breeds its own version of kind of finding the limit.
Yeah, I feel the same. You're kind of expanding on what I was trying to say earlier about, like, feeling like I was so far from the action. It's like you're not with other people to learn from or to guide you. You just kind of, it's a good way to put it. You just finding your own limits. You're pushing your own limits and kind of not worried. It's like California. There's so many people riding.
Yeah.
They'd often ride together, but you'd see what everyone else is doing.
Cheers, man.
Thanks. You might be more inclined to follow someone's path or, guided somewhere from people around you. But when you're in the country, there's no one around you to guide you or to either help you or to teach you or to show you anything. So you just kind of, find your own path, and could be anywhere. But I feel like it certainly helped with the drive motivation. Just, I don't know, maybe more time, just made me try harder, made me want to do more.
Yeah, well, man, I'm thinking, and there's just so many more dudes from WA that have killed it. Like even Jack Robbo now is one. Like he's going to be a world champion surfer, I reckon, from WA. Like there's just so many insanely talented dudes, and there's been so many, before the people that we've mentioned as well. And it is a weird thing, and I think it comes from isolation. And we had a lot of mountain bike world champions come out of Cairns as well. Like you've got world class kind of facilities, I guess, in terms of the mountains. Yeah. But there is a weird thing, that isolation, especially if you get a group of dudes together, that you can form like a weird little group. And that weird group can really push each other. Yeah. And when there's no one else around, and we had like Krusty Demons tapes, and we had, like some old moto movies, and that was sort of it. And we were out, we were lucky enough to be friends with the Richardson family, and they had a bunch of property, and like there was fucking 10 tracks. So every day, where are we riding today? Pull up at this part of the farm, pull up at this track. Yeah,
that's awesome. There are some, I don't get out often enough, but for trail riding, just south where we live, sort of just bailing up to Nannup area, not quite down Manjimup way, but I mean from there all the way down to Manjimup where you'll be racing later on. It's just a lot more hilly, a lot of bushland in the hills, and there's a lot of, like, they have some downhill downhill mountain bike tracks there, races, and we just take our road trail, enduro bikes through there, and a mate works down there in the pines, and just find all these trails, and you can have so much fun out in the bush, and you just do what you want to do.
Yeah, no, it is. Man, I'm getting pumped for WA now. This is perfect timing, and I've got Jeff Lease coming in here on Monday.
Oh yeah,
just running all the WA heroes through this joint before we get going. What was it like meeting Trav? Because I feel like that's probably a turning point in your career in terms of like the way that you could progress.
Yeah, look, Travis was a bit of a childhood hero. Just loved. I never liked. I never wanted to say have image or anything like that. I just loved doing things and not trying to look like the cool kid or not trying to be famous. And like, I always saw Travis as just the guy that killed it. Might have been a bit goofy or whatever, but he just did it because he loved it, and he was ultra talented and amazing at everything. And some other guys were sort of a bit too image orientated with a brand or whatever. And I just thought, that's awesome what he's doing, and he just kills it at everything.
And you picked that up early from him? Like you noticed that in him early?
Yeah, I guess it just, because it was, it felt like a similar upbringing, similar person to what I was or what I felt like I wanted to be. So just some people you just kind of see them and you think, that's...
Oh, for sure. There was dudes that wanted to be Brian Deegan. Yeah. And there was dudes that wanted to be Travis Pastrana.
Yeah, I certainly didn't break it down like that back then, but I saw him and thought, that's cool. I want to be like that, do cool stuff and and just not care about anything else. And I remember, I can't remember how long before I joined Nitro and met Travis, but I remember thinking at one point, how awesome would it be to be sponsored by Red Bull and ride for Nitro Circus, just thinking about Travis's position. And then within a couple of years I was there, had the sponsorship and met him, and I think it was 2011, finally got to 10 or 11. Anyway, one of those years, finally got onto Aussie regional Nitro tour, and it was amazing. It was a bit, I was a bit sort of shy and bit quiet because there was just a whole group of people that I hadn't met yet, but he was just so humble, down to earth, and just a legend. And always so energetic, but everyone just feeds off his energy when he's around him.
Yeah.
And he's just, so helpful. He's always wanted to do fun things. And I think it was, I feel like it was in 2010. No, 2011. And then at the end of that Nitro tour, he was like, "Oh, does anyone want to come back to my place and learn some tricks?" And I was just like, straight
Yes,
there.
sir.
And a lot of people had jobs and stuff, and I just kind of, I think I was still in seasonal drilling at the time and didn't really have a job anywhere that I had to be. So I was just like, jump straight over there. And that's when he had I don't know, just the way he thinks is good. Like, maybe think of 3 things you want to get out of this trip, 3 tricks you want to learn. And double flip, and started playing with the special flip, and I forget what else. But the double flip, just with the 450, it was just sort of something that appealed to me. And it's like, I reckon if you can do a double flip, with your bag of tricks, you'll be able to win X Games. And it's like, good one. So that started me on, the whole double flip trip. So I was just getting confused about the dates then. I feel like it might have been end of 2010, because I'm pretty sure I went to X Games in 11.
Yeah.
11 was a big year. A lot happened that year. So, but it was amazing. He's just so helpful. Let me stay at his house, and just he had a couple of cars. He just was so helpful. So he's got a couple of mates that always help, and kind of felt at home. Like Hubert was bit of a mechanic, bit of a machine operator, and I kind of love doing that stuff too. So,
I could see you boys getting along pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and I kind of felt really at home, and I could help out when I could, and and still ride and have a blast and learn some crazy tricks and try to avoid getting hurt.
Were you the first dude to double flip a 4-stroke?
No. Scott Murray, and Six was doing a 250, wasn't he? Scott Murray was doing a 450.
Yeah, okay. Because Trav did, he was always double flipping 2 strokes.
Yeah, but he could double flip anything, I think.
Yeah, fair.
It's like the triple flip. I remember went out there because he'd got Tom and myself out there. He had this idea at a ramp, and he just wanted, and when bag jumping started making those big box airbags, he's like, want to see what we can do. And Tom had really good aerial awareness. I just had the balls to give it a crack, and Travis was just sort of brilliant at everything. But he would, after a few ramps, he's like, 250, maybe I'll try the 450, and then like, it's a bit heavier. I'll try the light 125, and he just like 5th gear on the 125,
what?
3rd gear on the 450, and he just tried. I think he even tried the 500. He's
the Armzilla.
Yeah, he's just so talented. It was mind blowing, really. Around him.
He's a force, dude.
Yeah,
like he's one of the more bizarre. I've met a lot of people. He's one of the more bizarre and awesome people I've ever met in my life, man. Like, from how nice he is to everybody, how gnarly he is, and how like staunch he is about stuff. Like, he knows what he wants, and he knows the way to get things done. And he's the nicest guy ever, but he runs his own program. And there's a combination of factors that go on with that guy that just make him like the most cool and unique dude, eh?
Yeah, well, it was interesting getting over there and meeting his parents too, because it kind of shed a lot more light on why he is, but how he is. So his mum, just a like really kind, loving Christian lady. So I guess very respectful and sort of has good morals. And then the dad is just like an animal of a drill sergeant in the army. But like in the army, you learn respect and you learn there's a lot of rules and I forget the word. You
like discipline.
Discipline, yeah, a lot of discipline, but you're hard as nails. So he's just had like all these. He's so respectful, so intelligent, smart, and helpful. But then he's an animal when he had to train. His dad was like, yeah, if you want to try, you got to try hard. So he good combination. Amazing to be around.
Yeah, and then you wrap that up into a kid that got obsessed with dirt bikes, and there's obviously like a level of talent there. But it's funny. I had Julian Wilson on the podcast. He's a surfer, and he was saying, I think talent's just bullshit. I think that all talent is just obsession, and then you get so obsessed, and then you practice and practice, and you just will yourself into being good. And I'm like, fuck.
Interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, because I wonder about that, because like I'm so not talented in motocross, and then so talented in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm like, what? Like, how? You know, how does it? Is it the? And I find it fascinating to think about why, and especially because I'm talking to people like you for my job. You know, like people would say you're talented, but then it's like, is it talent? What is it? What is going on? What is that thing that's going on? And you know, like literally the first time I ever did jiu-jitsu, I just was like, oh, this is sick. Like I love this. And then I watch people that come into their gym and they do their first class, and they're just like, what the fuck have I, like, you know? And everyone's got like this I guess what I'm trying to say is like that the baselines are different.
Yeah.
Everyone has this weird different baseline. And I think what we call talent is when somebody's got like a fairly high baseline and then they just start building on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny, hey, so people's brains, everyone works differently. So I remember as a kid, I was always interested in like doing stuff with my hands, like hand-eye coordination, sporting, that kind of stuff. But was say never very smart in school, or was that interested. But then some people are more, I don't know, some more analytical, or more, you know, just people have the areas where they do better at, and then I guess that's where they can develop talents in certain areas because they're more inclined to be interested or
in the things that come naturally.
Yeah. So I always loved pushing limits and hand-eye coordination, like doing flips and stuff like that. I just love that kind of stuff. So I guess it helped me later on when I was, you know, riding bikes. I certainly didn't have any talent as a kid. I learnt on an ag bike, but it was just through sheer passion and just want to do it.
And see, that lends
myself.
That lends into what Julian said, right? It's just that obsession. Like you get obsessed with something and then you just do it over and over and over.
Yeah, because that's kind of made a lot more sense when some younger kids were saying, oh, you know, what do I need to do? I want to be a famous motocross rider. So I didn't. I just wanted to be the best I could do. I think that's the problem, is some people want to be this end product.
Yes.
But then like, you just do what you love to do. You know, if you love it and if you're passionate about it, you know, you can learn a way to monetize whatever your passion is. You know, help people, you know, provide some kind of service, doesn't matter. It's just, you know, you have to at least start in an area that you like, and then, wherever your passion lies, then you can work on that.
I honestly think one of the most, like, one of the, I guess, most interesting achievement of your career from the outside in is that you really don't give a fuck about, like, being famous, being cool, quote unquote. Like you're not that guy, and it's so hard. Like there were more people that would want to do freestyle motocross or professional motocross and supercross or professional sport. The percentage of people that would want to do that to be famous, would be so much more than the people like you who don't really give a fuck to be famous.
Yeah, and there's a couple that makes me think of, like, so a friend told me about the 5 love languages.
Yeah,
that was an interesting one, and then, but also like childhood, upbringing, environment, like all that stuff has a play on how you end up as well. Because, like, I was never, I guess, a very loving family, so very fortunate there. But then I never really was never trying to find love anywhere else. I like doing things, and so then. What I thought, you know, when I was younger, I thought everyone was, you know, say like me and wanted to do stuff. But then a lot of people, you know, some people like words of affirmation more. And I was, like, it was only just a few years ago that I sort of, this all became clear.
It's interesting, that love language stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So I feel like everyone works differently and is after, feel like they're chasing different things to feel complete. And so, for me, thankfully, it was just I didn't need people to say, "Oh, good work." I didn't care about what they thought. Obviously, I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want anyone to, say think I was an absolute dick or anything like that. But it wasn't their opinion that was driving me or that was affecting me. I just, it's a bit of a
No, I know exactly what you're saying. That's it. I've never really thought of it. I've read that Love Languages book, and it is pretty interesting. And to think about, that being the reason why, that you didn't really care. Like, you don't need words of affirmation. You don't need people to tell you that you're good. And I've never thought that could actually correlate with the fact that you don't, you weren't ever doing freestyle to be famous, or because all that shit comes, and people obviously know who you are. Like when you're on TV or you do a triple backflip, like people will find out that you did that. You know what I mean? But then there is like definitely people that they want to be famous, and that's like people that start bands or be actors, or like there's all of these kind of things that people, that's what they want out of it, and then they'll kind of trudge through the process of making movies. And
I do wonder though if there are a lot of people might be wanting to be famous, but then there are a lot of people, even like singers and band members, actors that purely like to act and like to do all that stuff. So it'd be interesting to know.
Well, I feel like they would be the people that reach the very pinnacle. I feel like you can only fake it a certain amount, or like that level, because what you said before about like the I guess the way you looked at it, it's like you were just in love with the process of doing it, not like the end result. And I think that if you're, like this podcast, for example, like, dude, the time that I spend actually like posting a video and then looking at it being like, wow, that's doing great. That's like a very small percentage of the time. Like I don't really get to enjoy, I'll look at the numbers and be like, that's fucking crazy, but that's it. Because there's more work to be done. Exactly. Like if you stop and smell the roses, essentially, and like if that was the motivation, you're only going to get to stop and smell that garden for a couple days before those flowers fucking die. Like if you don't keep, it's the work that you've got to love. Like you've got to love the thing that yields the results, not the result.
Good point. That's a big part of being successful as well. Is some guys love riding motorbikes and want to be successful, but I loved hard work. I loved hard training. It's a lot harder now. Like I need something to be motivated, but like football, it's hard and you get sore and it's a process, but I sort of love the challenge. I love pushing myself through that, and I think growing up on a farm, that helped me also learn to work hard, and Dad pushed me a lot, helped me a lot, motivated me a lot to work hard, and you get more done. The harder you work, the more you can learn, the more you can progress, the better you get. So although I might have got good at motorbikes, but it was a lot of hard work.
But the fact that you like the hard work is what do you think, like when you are doing hard work and shit, like footy training or whatever, like a real difficult thing to do, like what's the talk that's going on inside your head? Like, because I feel, I don't know, for me anyway, like I got the voice that says like, stop, like just fuck, this is too hard, like you don't really have to do this. Like you can intellectualize your way out of why you don't really need to do this shit. Ice bars, perfect example. I can be like,
for sure.
I can literally, my housemate got super into doing ice bars, so I just started reading all these research papers on
why not to
on ice bars, just to literally see if there was any like hard evidence, because that's my brain intellectualizing a way out of a hard thing that I don't want to do. And then I actually did one only a couple of weeks ago down in Sydney with my mate, and that first 30 seconds the body's just like abort, like what and you're just like, get the fuck out. And then after a while, like you get through that 30 seconds, and then the next couple minutes you can figure it out. But feel like there is And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just not the way that you look at it. Maybe that's brains working differently. Like your brain looks at it in a different way.
Yeah, and I get in an ice bath and think, this sucks, this hurts. But, it's causing me to, tense up, but now it's a challenge. It's like, you have to tell yourself to relax. You have to force yourself to breathe normal, and you can sort of, I mean, physically, it's just cold. It's nothing more than cold. So why, so that for me, it's like I've got to overcome this. I've got to adapt, breathe, and then you kind of have to. That's why that Iceman
Wim Hof,
he has a breathing technique because you can force yourself to be calm. You can force a bit more blood flow through the body, and so if you just try and shut down, then you lose the circulation through your extremities, and it leads to frostbite and stuff like that. But so you have to get over it mentally. Great for mental strength. Great for you feel so good when you get out, and I now understand why they say it's like good for depression. It's good for a lot of mental problems that people have. It's just so hard, but like a lot of things, you have to be able to go through these hard things to really appreciate life or to appreciate things.
Yeah, I had a guest on a couple months ago, Levi Jones-Leary, and he's a professional. He's like one of the best in the world at jiu-jitsu. And it's funny, his mum's like this full hippie chick, and she's like a shaman and a healer and all these kind of things. And she said to him, if you learn to do difficult things easily, your life will be easy.
Yeah, I like that. It makes me think a few times some people try and make life easy.
Yeah.
And then like there seem to be the guys with the problems, and I feel like sometimes I try and explain it like life's hard. Like no matter what, life's hard. But you've got to know that it's hard, and you've got to treat it like it's hard, so you give it hell, and that'll make it easy. But you've got to think that it's hard. But too many people think that it has to be easy. Like they don't want to work, they want to relax, but then that just gets harder. It's like you have to. It's like there's where we see normal, then that's hard and that's good. But like if you just sit there, like the gap closes up, and then all of a sudden, like just anything seems hard. But you have to push yourself. You just always have to challenge yourself to like. That's why ice bath is so good, because we like to be warm, but if you just stress your body, you put yourself through crap, and then you feel so good when you get out, and it helps you. You adapt to it. You get better blood circulation, better mental health, and then just the normal just seems so much better because you put yourself through this crap. So, everyone encourage you just to to do something that's challenging. Like, that's why fitness is hard, but you've really got to. That's why I like football training actually, because it's really hard in motocross. If you're not training with other people, it's so hard to push yourself. But if you're with a group of people, with a group of friends especially, you can push yourself, and it's hard, but you have to sort of push yourself. You have to stress yourself a little bit to really appreciate life, I reckon.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that was probably I would say that I feel like I've worked hard. Like I definitely knew how to work hard, but I definitely didn't have my head around that concept fully until the last few years. Like maybe like 28, 29, where I really kind of literally exactly what you said. Like, oh, fuck, there's no such thing as an easy life.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny actually? It's the second. Can you pull up the laws of thermodynamics, Ronan? Weirdly enough, but it's like the second law of thermodynamics is like degeneration. Like if you leave something alone in the universe, it degenerates. So like you have to the second law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of any isolated system always increases. So essentially, if you pull an apple off the tree and you put an apple on a table, you leave that apple alone in the universe, it degenerates, it entropies, it turns into nothing. So that's the process of every single thing that is created in the universe. A star goes through that same process. It just takes billions of years, and an apple goes through that process, and it takes like 3 days. So we go
It
through
lasts
that
a little bit longer than that.
if it comes from a Sheehan farm. Yeah. But we're that too. We're a thing that's in the universe that when you leave it alone and it becomes an isolated system in the universe, over time, it will fucking degenerate. Yeah. So like as soon as like that concept clicked in my brain, I was like, I've been disintegrating since I was born. I'm growing, and well, I feel like there's a period where you're not, like you're growing, but once you hit that point of like you're not growing anymore, there's no new cells, you've been left alone in the universe, and you are going to degenerate, and you're going to end up like that apple, and you're going to end up like that star. Yeah. You will be reduced to nothing, like everything.
Use it or lose it.
100%. And so what you're given, to get even deeper and weirder into it, we've got like this conscious awareness of that. We might not think about it consciously, but that's whatever's conscious and whatever has life, they're programmed to protect that life for as long as they can, pass that life on. So there's this weird kind of thing about being alive. So that's like essentially in my head now, I'm like, that's why you're alive. You know that there's this process of entropy that goes on in the universe. And it's like, you think about your room. If you don't clean your room, that fucking entropy, like it turns to shit. So that's this constant process. And I think as soon as you just said it, you buy into that philosophy of like, life's hard. Life is literally a process of things coming into being and then dissolving to shit. And you can look after those things for a certain period of time while you're around, and you can use your like knowledge of that process to like keep things going and keep things in order until they eventually turn into disorder. And some people, they just leave their lives in disorder.
Yeah.
And that's not a concept that's in their head. They're like, wait, I'm fucking here. I'm alive. Like this should be easier than this, right? And then when it's not as easy as you think it should be, then you start blaming shit. You're like, well, that's because of this, and I'm not lucky, and this happened, and fucking this. But it's like believing in that concept.
Yeah, and that then flows into, say, career, business, person, life, where, say, if you don't do something, it fades away. If you don't use it, you lose it. But everything, the world is progressing. So that's a classic. I love a good quote book or good quote. So one of them is, even if you're on the right track, if you just stand there, you'll get run over.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to be progressing, but if you want to be successful, like if you want to be a good surfer, rider, whatever, anything you do, everything's moving forward. So you not only have to be moving forward, but you have to progress more than what the other guys are doing. So like you should, it's like, there's some good scriptures as well about man with idle hands. Like, hard work gets you places, basically. Idle hands doesn't get you anywhere. So you need to work, you need to progress, you need to keep moving.
It's such a valuable concept, like to just know that life's supposed to be this hard. Because it feels shocking at times how hard life can be.
It's like a big test. We're only here 80, 100 years. It's not meant to be easy.
It's weird though that then it just fucking just stops. That's like the other fucked up thing about it as well. Is that you're like, you do all this work and then it's fucking over, and you're like, well, what was the point of doing all this work?
Then that turns into the whole religion thing, and I've been thinking about that a bit recently. So I'm Christian, but so I grew up with a Christian family, but you get to a certain age where you can think for yourself, and then start to doubt. You wonder, you think, oh, what's really happening? And then lately, I'm sort of so sure on things, but
where are you at with it?
So I'm Christian. I believe that Jesus, 2,000 years ago, he was born. He was a carpenter, just a normal person, but obviously the most influential man to ever walk Earth. We have 2 public holidays around him, and our current times is dates
is based off
him. But so he's Son of God, and he died for our sins. So then, so we didn't have to, so we can, like everyone say, oh gee, So I could probably get too deep into it, but
No, that's all right.
we're all born sinners. So then, we can't. Yeah, let's see. How's this long? How long is this going to go for?
You take as long as you want.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, where I'm at is I like to look at the big picture. So a lot of people might think, we're we come from monkeys or whatever. I was like, how ridiculous to think that an atom, or give it, a bit of dust where it's multiple molecules hit another bit of dust and create something intelligent and that just happened to start learning by itself. I just think that is so ridiculous. Like, we had to be created. So to me, it's like there's only one man that defeated death, one man that died and came back, Jesus. And, we're so, like, even Charles Darwin, the guy that wrote the book on evolution, the theory of evolution, and there's a quote, I screenshotted it, but it's like, he talks about the eye, and it's like, the eye is so advanced. I forget how many millions of light-sensitive cells are in our light. And he wrote to think that the eye occurred from natural selection is just bizarre at the highest degree. It's just, and I think, it's true. So I'm just so sure that, I without thinking about my background and upbringing and stuff like that, I can see why people are so, confused. You grow up with being taught one thing, and then so hard to believe that there's a man in the sky. But for me, it's like, step back from both of them, and like, it's impossible to happen by chance. Like, it's, and to think that like over millions of years we've evolved. How ridiculous! Like, I can understand how the in the universe expanding, like, that's probably what creation would look like, to be expanding and ever growing. But I just feel like there's no way it can happen by chance. So then, if it wasn't by chance, it was by purpose. It had to be created, and it's obviously way beyond what we could ever comprehend. So
that's the real problem with it. Like, when you think about all the things that we've achieved as like a society and stuff now, but we can't even, like, we don't even know what consciousness is.
Yeah.
So to be conscious is to know that it is like something. You know what I mean? It's like, to be conscious, I know I'm me. So that's what consciousness is. Like, this table probably doesn't know it's a table. So, and then there's that, you go back through like, I'm sure my dog knows what it's like to be a dog. Yeah. But his level of consciousness that he would have about his experience is so much more limited to what we would know. So it's like, we're this apex, we're like the peak of consciousness, right? And that it's so gnarly to think beyond any of it without even knowing what consciousness is. Where, like, where does it come from? Why do we know what it's like to be this? And then there's people that are unconscious, like, in terms of they say things that they don't mean. They're so in the moment. They're just driven by impulse. They've seem to have no control over themselves or their life. So, like, at what level are they conscious? And then, you get
podcast just got a whole lot deeper.
That's what we do, baby. But then, you go to like a Buddhist monk that has lived in a cave for 27 years and just gets bought rice in a bowl, and it isn't a person, has no, like, it's just a thing sitting there having this conscious experience. There's no concepts running through his head. There's no thoughts about, like, why am I in this cave? It's just purely like awareness, like aware of having this experience. So, like, for me, like, that consciousness is my thing that I think about the most, outside of like any creation, any of that, because to me, like, there's no point me going further without even knowing what that is, how we got it, and then I'm like, well, I don't know how I could find out any of the information. Like, that has to be, we're in this box, and whatever created us, whatever the, something from nothing, like, there's something, we're inside a box, and there's a bunch of shit that's outside the box, and we just don't know what's going on. So to me, like, that, just the conscious experience and understanding your own conscious experience, that's where I'm at with it all now, because it's like, I'm like, fuck, no, we don't know. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know why we're conscious. And it could be religion. It could, like it could be God. It could literally, who fucking knows? But that to me is like such a crazy mystery just in itself that I don't even have a thought of looking outside of that, because that right there is just so puzzling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's also what motivates me to think. Well, makes me think like it's impossible for. Like we're obviously like this for a reason. That's what I think. Like we had to be created. We had to be made like this, which is why we were made in God's image. So, to me, to think from that point of view that we were created by God, it all just makes sense. So
yeah, no, definitely. How does that fit into the crazy shit that you do then? Like, how do you feel about death? Because like you've lost your brother. At any point, like you could die from doing the things that you do, but I could also die going to the shop to get lunch.
Yeah.
But like, how do you feel about the things that you do within that framework that you've got?
Yeah, well, there's the I guess it's like growing up, say in the 20s or whatever. You just kind of, I didn't really think I was living for a purpose. I was just doing what I love doing.
Yeah.
I just sort of love pushing my limits. But as I'm getting older, in my 30s, I'm thinking a lot more about, why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I want to get out of it. And start to think about a lot more about like why I believe I was put here, why I believe we were put here. And to think that if I look at it from...
like zoomed out 10,000 feet.
Yeah, to think that we were made here in God's image. We came here with nothing. We leave with nothing, and we're all God's people. Like everyone's even. Everyone's loved. God is love, and He doesn't. He's not the one causing harm. So then we want to be trying to help each other, and so I think there's a lot more motivation going into sort of helping people. Whether it's just teaching, learning. I hate hearing about people sort of being. Going through depression or something, and then like hear people killing themselves, and I think, it sucks. So I want to try and help those people more. And it's not like my religion limits what I do, or say it like freestyle, riding bikes or anything like that. It's not like it's bad or good or anything for what I do. It's just something that I do, but definitely what I do with it is something that I can change a lot more. And it's it's a real I mean now I see it a lot more like life. We've only got say 80 years here, and it's all learning. We're basically learning as much as we can, hopefully maturing ourselves enough to die and then and go to heaven. But it's like there's so much that we will never understand, and it's like 80 years of just preparation basically for when we do die. That makes it sound really sad to talk about.
No, well, I mean, it's either that or you live for 80 years and you don't go anywhere. That's probably even sadder.
Yeah.
You're right what you said, like God is love. I think with me, like I spent a bunch of time meditating, and it was especially the last 2 years I got like real into it, and like Eastern philosophy. And then there's funny, when I say, and I got a few books for you to read when you're talking about the brain and stuff like that. So I got real interested in the psychology and the brain side of things, and then that led me into just the kind of reading a lot about just consciousness and what we do and don't even know about, like the conscious experience. And it's funny that then led me into the meditation stuff, because meditation is understanding what your consciousness kind of is without thoughts, without stimulus, without, you know what I mean, without any of those inputs. And when you can, on the rare occasion, dump all of those concepts of who you are, what you do, all of the things that you're attached to, that you would say, I am this, this is part of me. Once you can let go of those things and even for a moment be like that monk in a cave that has lived in that space for 20 years, then what you find is that in the absence of everything else, that feeling feels a lot like love and kindness and compassion. And when you peel it back to, like, when I mentioned that there's people that are kind of unconscious, like a thought comes in their head and then they just act on that impulse. There's no awareness around that thought. There's no deconstruction of that thought.
Yeah.
Where'd that thought come from? Did I think that? You know what I mean? Like, and when you don't look, and then that's impulse. And some people just like live in that lane. But when you can peel all that shit away, it feels a lot like God. It feels a lot like love. It feels a lot like compassion. And when you understand an impulse, and when you understand the way that these things, they just pop into your head and you either attach to them and do it, or you don't. You let them go and then they disappear and then a new thing comes. So then when you see a person that's being like a shit person, you actually have compassion for that person because you understand that there's no space around any of the things that are being delivered to them, and they're just almost on autopilot. And it's like, it's not really a conscious decision on their behalf, but it's almost like they don't know what they don't know. And you can't be angry at those people. Yeah. And I guess that maybe is like a sinner kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, but I still see that what appears to be someone not making a conscious decision. I see a lot of that can come from upbringing, childhood as well, morals, whatever they believe. So
definitely,
a lot of people that just, they might do something and they might think it's normal, or they've just been
conditioned to that.
Immersed in that kind of environment for so long that they just think it is normal. So yeah, I still feel compassion for them, feel like they do need help, but more just guidance or understanding, in some area, some way.
Yeah, and that's like, I guess, wisdom. That's what, what wisdom is being able to, that's just like a notification.
Ryan's over there texting.
Yeah, it's on the Snapchat, on TikTok, big TikTok guy. But yeah, I mean, that's where I guess that compassion side of it comes in, is when you can understand that a lot of it, if the person had more wisdom, if the person knew more about themselves, if they knew more about the way that thoughts appear and disappear and that you can connect to them and things like that, then they would probably act differently. But every thought that you have, like everything that you've thought about over the last almost 3 hours, is something that I fucking told you. We've done, it's 20 minutes and it's been 3 hours.
Oh, it's about 12:30. Is that right?
Yeah.
5 to 3?
Yeah. Told you.
Okay, another 40 minutes, then it'd be 3 hours.
Well, let's get closer. But, like every thought that you've had, I've put in your head, essentially. Like there's been a response that you've had to those thoughts that's like your side of the coin. But that's sort of what you're saying with people's like upbringing and influences. And if they've only ever been around these shitty ideas and these shitty impulses and these like shitty stimulus, that, because it's like cause, effect, cause. That's what your life is. It's like this constant stimulus of input, and then your like reaction to it, and then an output. So it's like constant reaction. So like what you said, if you've got this fucking shitty upbringing, you don't have knowledge around these certain areas, then it's like, is it even really your fault? Because there's that cause and effect. This is just this back and forward tennis match. And you can either be like, your cause and effect is, you've got these good frameworks, you've got these good people in your life, you've got this love in your life, you've got this great place that you grew up, and then the input and then output is like pushing towards this positive direction. And you get people that they've got like input output that pushes them into these negative directions, or very uneducated directions, or directions that are just purely based on impulse and not a lot of thought, before, in between the input and the output, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very different way of looking at things. But I mean, I think that's why we need to help each other, isn't it? We need we need to teach each other, help each other, and help out. Some people go through different areas, and we all sort of need to work together and get everyone through it, because some people get brought up in different areas and just miss out on some things that other people get. So, as in like treatment or understanding or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
And I think like that's why things like this help, and being like yourself a person that can go and like by you, let's say doing a triple flip or something like that, you're showing people that something that you think is impossible is possible. And there's obviously like people aren't just gonna be like, I'm just gonna, oh yeah, I could triple flip. Maybe someone would then apply, maybe impossible to that person is losing weight.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is like, I guess when you're saying that you want to help and, you know, like make the world better in that lane, like I guess the way that you do things, like there's a level in which inspiration can be so valuable to people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Inspiration is a big thing that, you know, I do like to have an effect on kids like that. If I can inspire them to be better, to learn, or to whatever, anything that's improving, then that does make me happy as well. So triple flip, you know, it's not like I went down that way to prove that, more just to prove to ourselves that we could do a triple flip, but, you know, hoping that all that inspires other people, that, you know, so many things appear impossible, but just because we haven't worked out a way to get there yet, that we think that it is impossible, and then we get stuck in grooves, in a rut, and you just think, you know, this is the way it has to be. But, you know, there's so much, we're capable of so much more. We just need to believe it, understand it, know
and then work to get there.
Yeah, it's always work to get there, but you have to think that it's possible in the first place before you can start working towards it.
So with the triple flip itself, how long did that take to land, and like what was, I guess, talk me through the process of the triple flip.
Yeah, sure. So it was late 2014 when Travis first invited Tom Pages and myself over to trial this airbag and a new ramp, and I think not long before that Travis wanted to do a triple flip, and he just created this monster of a takeoff ramp and a steep monster landing that he's hoping he could just, if something would happen, he could slide out of it.
Oh, so yeah, because it'd be so steep.
Yeah, so I'm sure I saw a little bit of footage, but he tweaked his knee and figured that it was just, you know, it's hard. You need something safe to practice. So that end of 14 was when we went out there to trial a ramp. It was just this monster ramp.
That big red thing?
Yeah. No, it was, I think at the start of the triple flip doco, it shows our reaction when we first saw it, like a 10 meter high ramp. You know, it might not have been quite 10 at that point, but ridiculous. And there was an airbag behind, just a flat airbag. And it was just, we wanted to see what was possible and, you know, what we needed to do to, obviously you wanted a triple flip done, but it was a bit of an experimental thing just to see what we could do. And ramp wasn't steep enough. You know, there was a lot of funny little stories in there about rock, paper, scissors. And, you know, I lost rock, paper, scissors the first day, so I had to test the first ramp, and we're stepping back, and it's like takeoff ramp. It's like, I reckon about third gear, Mike. You know,
oh nah,
that's physics behind it. And if that's the edge of the airbag and the ramp's here, I jumped, and it was so steep, I was just air wheelie, bone air the whole way, and my back wheel landed right on the edge of the bag, kind of took most of the speed out, and then the front wheel dropped down and hit the dirt, and I've fallen forward and throat chopped myself on the handlebars. So got lucky, but we straight away had to steepen that up. And then, so I think we had 2 weeks there, just had to steepen it up, you know, a few mods to even get some height, but we couldn't get any rotation. And Travis, we went home, and I know Travis put a lot more effort into changing ramp designs. I think we invited us back over early, it was late 13 it started, but it was all through 2014 when we're going back and forth. So went over there for a week at some point and made a few changes, and you know, basically a couple of guys there were making a wooden ramp that they could easily modify. Old Nate Wessel was just ripping things apart and changing it around, and yeah, a few ramp designs. We didn't really get much closer, so Travis went home. Travis would work on different ramp designs, and then I think he got really close and reckoned he had the right ramp, so he got it made out of metal, but do this and this, and so he got the ramp that worked, got it made out of metal, and then had to do a
change
couple
it.
of changes.
Yeah.
And we got out there and it didn't work. And he was pissed, and we were a bit annoyed, so we had to modify it again, took a section off, and it was just, in the end, it was like 17 ramp changes
Wow.
to find the one that must have been around August, September or something in 2014 when we finally
Nailed it.
Yeah, we were getting 2 rotations on the way up, and my technique was terrible, so Travis helped me a lot with that.
What was wrong with your technique?
Just to do 2 rotations is one thing, but to keep yourself in the right position, to keep the momentum going was the tough part. Is we'd get 2 rotations, say you'd be nose down at the top peak of the jump,
and then you'd kind of deaden out.
Yeah, and then like momentum changes, like shifting direction, it kind of upsets your balance and everything. So basically you had to once we hit the peak of the jump and started falling into that 3rd rotation, I had to kind of drop back into it, lean into it, and almost pull for another flip, and that kind of helped keep the momentum going, or almost felt like it sped it up. And so Travis helped me a lot with that, with all his double flip experience over the years, and we finally got the triple flip done, and to the flat airbag. So then it was exciting. We were all loving it, but also got scary then because we knew it was real. Like it was
possible,
and it was going to happen. There's no way we were just not going to let it happen. So yeah, I think he then went on to bag jump, went and made that as a lander bag, about 5 foot thick.
Which is it? We got some photos up here. Fuck, that is big, dude. What's it like to actually hit that ramp, like in terms of the forces that go through your body?
Yeah, ask Trevor Jacobs.
He just did the old like fucking crumble.
Yeah, so the ramp was there, and Nitro was there, and I think we were filming some. I feel like maybe we were doing a bit of filming. I feel like we had free reign over the place. There was one point when we were making videos in teams of 3, and Trevor just wanted to go and backflip as many things as possible, and we were doing we were hitting this setup, and he's like, "Oh, I want to hit it." Travis is like, "Yeah, we've got a KTM 300 for you," and I think that's what it was. He just kind of left it up to him, and he just underestimated the G-force as it got into the belly of the ramp. But we were hitting it it was 52 or 53 miles an hour at that point. But,
wow.
80.
Wow.
Nearly 85 k's an hour. And just heading into the ramp, Trevor's just leg sort of buckled a bit, and he's just shot off the side, and that's that famous scene of him like ejecting, and then there being one branch sticking out, and he's just pushed off that branch and pushed himself enough onto the airbag to land on the bag. And the bike landed off on the dirt, and everyone was in shock.
Fuck, that's psycho, dude.
But so I mean, there was a fair bit of force, but yeah.
If you could anticipate it, then
so I had an idea of what you're in for. You could cope with it. And so that the landing basically
click onto that one, that third picture across.
Yeah, so that landing without the plywood on there is just a scaff. It might not have had that top section, the top triangular 45.
Fuck me.
So that take the ply off it. It's just
like scaffolding.
Yep, scaffolding, flat top, and it's just a metal structure that comes that. I guess it's like walkway, pathway that you can attach to the scaffolding.
Yeah.
So it was just that structure and an airbag lander that was draped over the top. So I'm sure there'd be some on there during training, but it's a 5 foot thick bag, has all these nipples, they call them, that are folded down, so you can land, and it's like riding through boggy sand or boggy mud.
Yeah.
You almost have to lean back and wrestle it, but you could crash, you could throw your bike and land fine, but you could also land and ride out of it.
What? Go to the YouTube video, Rones.
So,
which one? That one, probably? That'd be just the dirt landing, right?
Yeah.
The plot. Fuck, that's gnarly, bro. Oh, yeah, that's the airbag there, right? Yeah, click into that one. Top Sheeny moments. Here we go. This is what we want to see. Dude, man, you've done some crazy shit. How was the chops on you?
Yeah.
I love that.
They come out every now and then.
Why not, eh? Go forward to watch some... Is that you on the back?
Yeah, that was Nitro Circus. That's over in Europe somewhere.
Yeah, go back. You've got 9 minutes of epic. Did you have to take the visor off your helmet? Oh, no,
I think it was... You see, that one, that was my first time I committed to
Go
the third
back.
rotation. And if you can play the volume, if you can listen to it. I see my position, I was kind of...
Go back again, Rains.
Tucked up underneath the
yeah.
bars. So
Yeah.
by that point, I was crapping myself and I was just trying to look back and committed. But that kind of ruined my rotation. And I didn't realise I drifted off to the right, but...
How hard is that impact on that bag?
The bag's not bad, but I nearly missed it then. I was so close to the edge that it, all the air pushes to the centre and the outside just kind of collapses.
Yeah, crumbles, yeah.
And I was just chest straight to the ground and was just started coughing up blood. So
really?
I was wrecked for a couple of weeks after that.
Really?
Yeah. So I filled up.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's a good angle.
Dude.
That was my nearly died moment.
That is really gnarly.
Yeah, so my left shoulder was...
Wow, dude.
Ooh, my left shoulder was weak at that point. About maybe 13... No. Yeah, I think it was 13. So I'd fractured the vertebrae in my neck that...
X out that sound real quick, Rains.
Fractured a vertebrae in my neck, which just pinched the nerve going down my left arm.
Yeah.
So there was just... It wasn't bad, but there were just some, some movements that were weaker. And I know when I was really leaning off the back hard, trying to give it to her, my right arm was obviously stronger and I'd drift to the right a bit.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Travis was the opposite. So there were two lines going into the ramp. There was my line coming from the right side of the ramp, heading off to the left, and at the top it was pulled to the right. And Travis's was the left to the right because he'd drift left. It was weird how that worked out, but I obviously overcorrected when I did the actual triple flip because I nearly drove into the wall on the left hand side after.
Yeah, open that one, Rains.
But that, back to the process. It was we got the triple flip done to the flat bag. Must have been late in the year, and then come back. It was like the week before Christmas. I remember. It was cold, icy, a bit of snow
frost.
at one point, and then it would melt during the day. It was just horrible. So I was all geared up, and we had the scaff landing with the airbag, the 5-foot bag draped over it, and we had cameras on the side of the flat airbag to work out where we were landing. So then they built this scaff landing in place. So I was going to land in the middle. Using the speed gun, so we were always hitting it at the same speed, and so I just had to trust that there was just this structure we were looking at, and I just had to trust that we'd get over, and worked good. So then there was a few jumps to build up to it, and then we landed. I landed the first rode out of the first triple flip to an airbag, and first one I kind of got caught up and crashed getting off it. So.
And so that you're just doing like speed check runs.
Yeah, I was probably under a bit of stress at that point. And
yeah, so like mentally, how do you feel on a day where you know that, like, can you sleep the night before you commit to something like this?
I did, but so a few influencing factors there. So one thing being each jump I'd treat it like it was to the airbag. I'd always treat it like it was the one. So I'd always just try and be well warmed up and just try and put myself under the pressure. Like there's never that much pressure when you go into a bag, but the week leading up to it, when I had 5 or 6 days to practice, so a bit of pressure, yep. But I just wanted to make sure I do a number of them in a row without error, so I knew that there was very good chance of landing it. And I think having about 8 mates or something flew over there, and we're hanging around, and a couple of mates, like some twins and good blokes that love a beer and a good time. They work hard, but they just love a laugh. So they're helping everyone get stuff done, but just making me feel at home, more relaxed, just easing the nerves with some laughs. So they helped out a lot. Thankfully, they flew over for it, but each day did get more and more stressful. And like by say 4 or 5 days of practicing triples to the airbag landing, I started to think, gee, what happens if I stuff one up now? Like, what's that going to do to my confidence?
Yeah.
It's like, no, just yeah. So like stress definitely built up. Got harder and harder. I'd do one in the morning, like give it a few hours, go out, prep,
Really?
like I'm doing another one, do one, they'd work. But the one thing that did give me a bit of confidence was knowing that once we did remove the airbag, because it was, I think, 55-degree landing, and the airbag's 5 foot thick at that angle, it was a couple of meters at least extra drop. So I knew that when I
you'd have a bit more
moved
room.
the bag, there was an extra, just that bit of time that if I was, and like, it's so steep that if I was so far under, like it would be scary, but you'd get away with a nose heavy landing. So thankfully the morning of, on takeoff, as soon as I left the ramp, my feet kind of did the usual slide back and kind of locked into the side plastics on the back, and I had really aggressive grip tape, and when my boots were locked up to that, I could tuck myself in and hold in a good position, and first few felt great, so then that third one, I was already in a good position, and I knew I could just sort of relax coming into the landing. It was unexplainable feeling after that.
Really?
Yeah, the weight off my shoulders, the stress that was building up. I think I only lost about half hour sleep on the night before. I was up a little bit earlier. I was starting to get a little bit of a snotty nose, a bit of a flu. A few people had the cold, and just hold it off, be strong, and then that day it all just hit me, like just the relief and because it happened, we were finished before midday. It must have been late morning that we got it done, so I had all day just to relax, and then the flu hit me the next day. I was hungover, obviously, and but on a high for a couple of days, for a good week after that. It was just amazing, really. I wish I could share that feeling with so many people, but just can't.
What's the thing that makes it so special? Like, what's the element of it that gives you the feeling, do you think?
The best feeling, the physical feeling, was just the fact of, because usually there's a bit of stress with everything. You get stress, and then if you fix a problem or whatever, you're relieved. But it's like things, say the level of stress might climb, and then it might die off. But it's like the stress was so high, and then just goes and just stopped. Yeah. So it was like I don't know what many drugs feel like, but it's like nothing could feel better than that moment of landing and just.
I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah, just
that's so
not
weird,
only have I
though,
succeeded, right? Not like we've made it. Like there was a massive team of people involved. Like Travis, his crew, my mates, the whole Nitro Circus crew for making it happen, and so it was like, everyone sort of just erupted, and it was, just can't explain it. So just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's weird that you put yourself in a position to feel so much stress over something that you've chosen to do. And the high that you get at the end of it is the relief of not having to do it anymore.
Yeah. Like
that's a weird thing to like put yourself in such a weird position to then give yourself that feeling.
Yeah. Like, I guess I was more motivated by, overcoming to, sort of, succeeding. There's a few influencing factors, like say some things we might do for a bit of an adrenaline rush. Like there was no although there was loads of adrenaline, but there's no way I was doing it for the adrenaline rush. But gee, the dump of the stress relief, the dump of adrenaline, it was just amazing. Like but I guess you can't feel that without going through that much stress in the first place.
Yeah, right. So that's the thing, is like the level of euphoria that you feel is exactly equivalent to the opposite end of the stress that you put yourself through to get there. So like big risk, big reward, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's yeah, it's so surreal. I remember it feels like a bit of a blur that whole time, because I was just so focused on trying to keep myself calm and relaxed, and just trying to, treat each day like it was normal, like nothing was any different, just so I could get that day done. But yeah,
it's crazy that freestyle has got to a point, like let's say you go, I want to try the triple flip, but we put these new conditions on it that says you can't have any help. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? That you need a team of people now? That's the level. Like, if you said, go do one backflip, you're like, I could figure that out by myself. You did it. You built a ramp. It was into some sand. You used sand. You could have done that trick by yourself. Double flip, you probably do by yourself.
Yeah, we still need the foam pit to...
Yeah, but you could build a foam pit by, you know what I mean? Like, you could get the foam. You could probably do it by yourself. Then you step up to triple flip, ain't happening.
Yeah, you could spend your whole life building the ramp with like all the changes. Just, I remember Travis saying, or I think a gymnast was telling him that for every rotation you add, it's 4 times the difficulty.
Really?
Which kind of makes sense, because one flip is physically easy, mentally a challenge, but to go from 1 to 2, it seems like it's so much harder. But then to go from 2 to 3, it's just so much,
like borderline impossible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to have a challenge like that was almost a bit of fun and a bit of scary fun at the start, to work out if it was possible, and then to get through all of that and actually making it happen and landing it. It's it's amazing. So grateful for people like Travis for being able to he had a good setup on the farm there, and he funded a lot of the stuff, a lot of the flights and the airbags and stuff like that went into it. So but like, if it wasn't for him and his crazy ideas, a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen.
Yeah, man, it's pretty special the way that, like, it sort of goes to show the lack of ego that he has too, to where like he's willing to put in that much effort for another person's achievement. Yeah,
it was really cool. I think I felt it, but really underestimated. Or I probably didn't show it enough at the time, but really appreciate. Like, it was, he put a lot into it, a lot of his time and money, and his friends helping out with everything. It was just, he's given me so much basically to help me to get that done, because it was a passion of his as well. But realized at one point that it's quite gnarly, and he was getting older and he had a couple of kids, and so I was kind of thankful and scared at the same time that he kind of handballed it to me. But amazing, a surreal time.
That's so cool. So before we wrap this thing up, tell me about skydiving. Why are you doing that?
Skydiving is,
because you've gotten into it,
is epic. So I've always loved, I guess, like flying, jumping bikes, flying planes, and I don't know, the freedom of falling is amazing. And to be able to have that, and just like the wind in your face, like even a wind tunnel is addictive, because it's like floating, but you have so much control with just your body movements. You see that some of the professionals in the tunnels, and it's amazing. So like to do a couple, to have, like, it's actually quite safe these days. We've got a reserve chute, and there's an automatic device that if you do nothing, it'll still open. And technology is quite good these days, and it's safer than we think, and it's just the adrenaline rush is fun, and you can do it with friends. You can play around in the sky, and I don't know, it's just the floating feeling, the falling feeling. It's an absolute blast. So, like 2 days ago, we had the pleasure of dropping out of a heli onto to Tangalooma Island Resort. I didn't even know it was there, just off Brisbane, and it was all Nitro Circus stuff, and we got a heli out there. We got 2 drops. So Jacko, Harry, myself, we're jumping with another guy, Jeff
Weatherall, yeah,
bloody legend.
He is a legend,
and it's just like so good. The whole ride up in a heli with no doors. At one point, we've got to take our seatbelt off, put our helmet on, and like try not to fall out. It's just the whole trip was amazing. Loved it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I just don't know where I'm at with it. I just don't know. You know,
done tandem?
Nah, never. I've never done it at all. It just, I don't know. It just seems like a fucking big risk.
Yeah. Well, that's so when we got into it, like I was with Tom Pages, who's when I got into it, we were sort of at a similar level, so it was fun jumping together. And I remember chatting to guys thinking, you guys are crazy, but they're not. They're the more calculated, and more, risk adverse. That we realised when we went skydiving that we were the crazy ones. We just, because we weren't doing it, we thought they were the crazy ones.
Yeah,
crazy people back in the day, that sort of progressed the sport and built and tested all the parachutes in the first place. But nowadays, like I pack my chute. Some of them feel pretty bad, but like you stuff it in. I haven't had a malfunction yet, but there's a second one you can cut away and it automatically pulls out your reserve. If nothing happens, you can still use your reserve, but someone else like Jeff has to pack a reserve, so it's immaculate and is kind of guaranteed to open. Like there are still things that can happen, but you gotta, just what the training's for, to go through the procedures. So if something, like when you do get a malfunction, which is, the stats are 1 in 500, you might use your reserve, but
have you had to use your reserve yet?
No.
How many jumps you at?
220 now.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was one of those things that like my friend did it, like my best friend growing up, when he was like 18, and he did the tandem skydive thing, and he just said it was the best thing ever. And I remember being like, mate, there's no chance. Like there's no chance. And then I was around a bunch of the Red Bull guys when I was in America, and like I've been around it so much, and I just still I just can't see myself doing it. Yeah. But I feel like it's one of those things, if I did it, I'd get super fucking into it. But that's it. I feel like I'm a dude that crashes shit and gets hurt a lot, and I'm like, I just don't feel like you got that much room to fuck it up.
Yeah, man, like they're right. You certainly have to be pretty careful. Like once you're under canopy, if something goes wrong, they can go bad pretty quickly. So
that's a bit I feel like I'd fuck up. I feel like I'd jump out of the plane, sweet. I feel like I'd fly through the air, sweet. I feel like I'd pull the chute, sweet. But I feel like it's when I'm doing this, that's when I'd make a mistake and I'd cook myself.
Yeah, well, I guess
don't do it then.
To try it to work it out. But yeah, it's definitely like you can stay with a nice fluffy canopy, not real big canopy that's just slow and docile. So it's not. You'll have to jump it in where there's next to no wind because
it's so too much. Yeah.
But then if you jump on one of them, you could just do nothing and you just hit the ground. You might like jumping off a couple of meters. You don't hit the ground very hard, but if you want to get a much smaller canopy, then you have to start landing faster. And
yeah. And what was the learning curve like for you? Like, it's obviously a thing that you guys really enjoy now. Because what I was kind of going with it before is like I sort of knew some people, but I didn't really have friends that did it. And now I've got friends that do it.
Yeah.
So like Bridget, Jeff, Top Dog, Harry, all those boys at my gym that do it. And I'm just, it's around. And I'm like, fuck.
Oh, look, I remember I'd done a couple of tandems with people and I thought, stuff it, I have to do it myself. And just want the feeling of being in charge and having the freedom to do what I wanted and being up to me to.
I think that's my initial hang up too, is that you've got to do it with somebody else first.
No, I mean, no, you don't have to do a tandem.
Really?
You can literally jump out of the plane, but 2 instructors will be holding on your side. So you cannot stuff up your first couple because
But how about the chute and stuff? They pull it all for you.
if you didn't, they would. But
Yeah.
you would, like, even if you didn't control it, you'd just, float down to the ground. But like worst case, on your first jump, you would just land off track somewhere and they'd have to go and pick you up. But yeah, there's after a couple of jumps, like after the first couple of jumps, if it looks like you've got control of it, they'll start to let you go, and there'll always be an instructor right there to grab you if you start to play up. But you have to practice your position to be in when to throw your pilot chute out. And yeah, if some people do that, some people freeze and freak out when they get to that point. So I guess they're the people that either stop doing it or
Get better.
take a bit longer to
Yeah.
to get used to that feeling. But it can happen really quick. Like I remember I just frothed off the adrenaline. I just loved every bit of it, and pretty quick to understand,
Aerial
the body
awareness
position,
kind of
aerial
thing.
awareness, everything like that. And so it progressed pretty quickly for me. Some people might, take a little bit longer, but taking longer is fine. It just means you're more careful. So I understood after doing my ticket that we were the risky ones because we're crazy. So
Yeah.
I have to, like once I'm under canopy, just if I want to play around with stupid stuff, I do it while I'm up high, so there's time to get rid of it and deploy the reserve if I need it. But yeah, I just have the fun up in the air and be careful down near the ground.
Yeah, it's been really cool watching Harry and Top Dog and the boys get into it. And I'm friends with Bridget, and she's obviously a fucking savage.
Kills it.
Yeah, she's super gnarly, that
Yeah.
chick. But yeah, and there's a pretty cool like community around it and stuff as well. Like
It is.
this whole scene, like with that Byron place, it's pretty cool. It's like I'm looking over, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, it is, because I don't know if maybe it's because only a certain type of person will go jump out of a plane and
Make a habit out of it.
Yeah, and they kind of mellows them out, and everyone's on a similar level. I guess it's like motorbike riders, when people that love it all sort of usually get along together because everyone's mentally on the same level and has the same kind of passion. So, but for some reason, yes, the skydives, they always seem like awesome people and just good, chilled out guys to hang out with.
Yeah. So before you get out of here, you've mentioned a couple of books. Tell me about your reading habits.
My reading habits aren't as good as I would like them to be, but I'm always trying to learn and trying to improve my brain ever since head knocks in the past. So learning is crucial. So be trying to read a lot more. But basically, like listening, an audiobook is a good one because I drive 2.5 hours to Perth every time I fly out. So like there's one that it starts with why was one.
Starts with why.
It's kind of, it branches off into marketing, but also like why as in a purpose behind what you do. One I'm listening to now, 7 Habits of Highly Efficient People.
Yeah.
Effective, yeah. It's cool because I need to be more efficient. I hate wasting time. What was another one? Terrible memory like that. The Rise of the Superman. That was an interesting one. Talking about being
flow
in the
state.
zone. Yeah, flow state. I'm sure you can cut that bit out while I'm thinking.
Right.
You can insert the sound of my cogs turning.
Yeah. I got a couple of...
I forget what.
Yeah, you find them. I got a couple suggestions for you based on what I've deducted from this conversation.
Yeah.
So can you type in, Ronan, 7.5 lessons on the brain? This is super, super interesting.
Oh, yeah. The one I'm reading right now is The Brain That Changes Itself.
That's the one that you said last night. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So there's this one, 7.5 lessons about the brain. This chick, Lisa Feldman Barrett, I've read a few of her books now. She's got another book which is super interesting called How Emotions Are Made. And basically, have you ever heard of like the whole triune brain thing. Like you've got the prefrontal cortex, and you've got the neocortex, and then you've got the amygdala or whatever, which is like the reptile brain.
Yeah.
So that was like the way that neuroscience was founded through, I guess, like Darwinism, basically. And so that was all of the studies around emotions and like concepts and things like that have been kind of studied with that lens, like through that lens of like the triune brain. And then they're like, oh, emotions live in the reptile brain, and then you've got the logical thinking brain, which is the neocortex, because that's the most developed in humans, so that must be why we reason and have right and wrong and emotion. And you know what I mean? So this chick, Lisa Feldman Barrett, she is a research professor and a professor at I can't remember the name of but it's one of the big universities, and she's got this huge research team, and she's a brilliant author. But she's basically, through all of these different studies, threw away like that old triune brain and tried to look at it more objectively and to see if there was like a new way that they could look at it. And what she's found is that old way of looking at the brain, it actually doesn't fit with any of the studies that they're doing now with modern technology.
Yeah, right.
So very interesting. And it talks about the way that our brains are more, like what you said, the brain uses so much energy. So the way that our brains work more so than like that triune brain is our brain is basically like a prediction machine.
Yeah.
So everything that you're doing, and it's so interesting. Like there's, when you've seen a stick that looks like a snake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a prediction.
Yeah.
So your brain has predicted that something on the ground that's long and curvy that would be near a rock at this time, you know what I mean? That's a prediction. And then you look there, and then your consciousness then gives it it takes that form until you've got more information.
Yeah,
so
right.
we're in everything's prediction first. And the reason why it's prediction first is because the brain is so expensive energy wise. So to get around, like the reason why we have got this brain that has been able to develop so much more efficient than any other kind of fucking creature on earth or whatever, is the fact that our brain got way better at predicting and just like constantly dialed in these predictions and then developed language, and then you could explain these So this book is fucking insanely interesting around that. So there's 7.5 lessons of the brain, how emotions are made. And then there's a book called Conscious by Annika Harris.
Yeah, okay.
And then she has just basically put in this, it's only a small book, but she's put in everything we know and don't know about consciousness. Super interesting. And then I haven't read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've got it. I haven't read it. But a book that I would say like legitimately changed my life in terms of habits and forming good habits was Atomic Habits. Have you read it?
Yep.
What a fucking book that is. Did you like that one?
Yeah, it was pretty good. And I like how you touched on it a little bit then, but how your brain tries to be more efficient, and so it, like how we form habits so we don't have to think about so much stuff. So yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah,
especially when you've got bad habits or you want to change habits.
And the thing that I took away the most from that book was that whole like aggregate gains. That if you do something 1% better every day, the compounding effect. And it's crazy, man. Like you look at that that graph that he shows in the book. Or did you do the audio book? Go to atomichabits.com for a sec, Ryan.
No, I did read it.
There's these graphs. I see this shit everywhere now. In my one of the things, like I'd say I'm a very analytical thinker. Yeah. But I'm not a very analytical person. Like, how you just said you were real messy and shit? Well, not real messy, but you were messy, and I'm like that as well. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not very analytical and ordered in that sense, but in my head I like to think of things orderly. Yeah. So that's why so go down a bit. I know he's got I know he had some resources on his website a bit, but that graph anyway, it's like it goes along. There's that's the habit. Keep going down. Keep going. I haven't actually looked on this. Anyway, the way that it works is he runs this mathematical equation of if you make a 1% gain over X period of time, you see it at the start, it's a very, very, very flat line. And then it ramps up, and at the point that it ramps up, it almost goes vertical. And that is a mathematical equation based on getting 1% better every single, that compound interest effect.
Compounding, it's a powerful thing that we
and it's real.
Underestimate,
dude. I could fucking show you my iTunes analytics. I could show you my YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, you just go and you go and you go. Don't feel like you're getting better for so long at something. Stretching is another thing where I've felt the same gains. I feel like if you measured certain stretches from when I really started getting into stretching to now, that'd look very similar to that curve.
Yeah.
So like, that clicked in the way that my brain thinks. I was like, I want that curve in everything. And it's not hard. It's just 1% every single day, but it just requires showing up. And you'd see that, you'd see the same thing in the gym. You see that style of progression everywhere. So but that's cool. You've read that one. That was one of the ones I was going to recommend as well.
It's interesting. I feel like there's a few more in there, but I can't remember what they are.
No,
actually, there's another good one. No, sorry. Give us a minute.
What's it about?
More finances, but just like a general, so people have barefoot investor.
Yep.
Yeah, just a good sort of general ideas about, like a lot of people might get caught up with credit card debt, stuff like that, when it's so nasty, but it's like, we get taught that it's not so bad, but a few little things about, paying off smaller, terrible debts that are harmful to us, and just sort of being careful with our money. So we've always got a bit of spare, a bit of backup, and a good way to just sort of organise your financial life so you're not too stressed out. Yeah,
sweet. Well, Josh, Sheehan, 3 hours, mate.
Beautiful.
How was it?
Yeah.
We went everywhere.
Yeah. It was... I had, when I got here, I thought you might have just had a number of questions that you wanted to ask, but no, just freelance.
You were like, oh, you asked your question. I was like, there's no questions. This is just, you just get in and you roll for a few hours. Probably missed a bunch of cool shit that we could have talked about. Probably talked about a bunch of random shit we probably would have never talked about. But that's how these things go. So
that's it.
Anyway, good luck with everything in the future. You're welcome back in here anytime. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, look forward to it.
When we cross the Nullarbor.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited, to be honest.
Yeah, get excited for the 80 mile straight.
Yeah.
80 miles of nothing but straight.
Who the fuck built that road?
Oh, why not build them curved when you can build it straight?
Oh, yeah, all about it. All about it. But who was the guys? They must have been some hard fucking men.
I know.
Right?
Actually, just recently we went down, not quite to the Nullarbor, but along that southern coast, there's the old telegraph line.
Yeah.
And there's a bit more history that I didn't really know about, but there's all these stations where they're sending telegraphs back and forth that all had to go through these places. So pretty cool if you got the time to stop in at places, but maybe later in life when we've got a lot more time.
Yeah, true.
Check out these places.
Do some exploring.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, Sheehan,
beautiful.
I enjoyed it, mate. Thank you so much, and see you in a couple of weeks.
Cheers. Look forward to it.
Perfect.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.